Today is April 3rd, and we are at the city of Destin. Without an invocation, we do not have a pastor here, so I will just say, look around. We are all in the community. We're all here for a reason, and I appreciate each and every one of you being here and taking your time this evening to make this community that much better. So thank everyone for being here, and at this point, we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. Ma'am?
Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, with that, I will entertain a motion for the agenda approval.
Second.
All right, calling the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. And before we begin, I just want to say that Destin is recognizing the month of April as Sexual Abuse Awareness Month. This morning I met with Emily King, who is with the Rape Crisis Center in the county for Okaloosa, and we are just going to be doing our part in the city to make sure that victims and anyone who are in those circumstances are taken care of and rehabilitated and back into our community. So I just wanted to let everyone know that this month is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So with that, we will start with our proclamations and our presentation. So 1A is the TDD presentation. Jennifer, good seeing you again. If you just hit the gray button and turn the light on.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Jennifer Adams with the Okaloosa County Tourist Development Department. I'm here once again to talk about some partnerships we have amongst the cities, particularly the city of Destin. This is the third year that during the summertime we will be doing an in-market campaign to offer more opportunities for our visitors. You know, we do advertising campaigns in key markets, but when they get here, we forget to talk to them. Well, the last few years we have been talking to them, and we've increased their spend in local shops, restaurants, charter captains, and you name it. So I'm going to start with just a little recap of last year and play this for you. That is our way of getting the Little Adventures message throughout the destination. Our goal was to increase spend by 10% last year. We increased it by 32%, which put all the incremental monies back into the local economy. So, let me go back one. I am happy to say that we're going to continue on with the popsicle carts. Years ago, we were told we weren't friendly, so 3 years back, we just said, you know what, we're going to give people popsicles. And I'm happy to say, standing here, that this summer we'll be working with 2 local vendors to purchase and distribute the popsicles. We'll have them on Okaloosa Island and in Destin. I'm working with the city team to iron out all those little details. We're going to add these surfboard signs, again, working with the city to find the right locations where we can have a little adventure message and have the QR codes. We track them on our website, and the QR codes just give more information to moms and what they can do while they're here. We're handing out red flashlights on the beach in honor of turtle season, and also for kids hunting in the summertime. My ambassadors will be handing those out. It has a little adventure message on the tag, and they can get to the website to learn more information about our coastal resources. We're going to wrap elevators. It's a captive place to get to families, and we've seen that you can see right there that they're using the QR code, downloading things onto their phone. Everything's mobile nowadays, so most of this is to capture the experience right from the phone. We'll be in storefronts again, back in Destin Commons. And we have permanent signage that basically says, well, 10 minutes down the road, you can go on a dolphin adventure. So all of these opportunities, I'm working with the city team, and you'll see them going up well before Memorial Day this year. This is what we're all really proud of. Last year, we implemented the Beach Flag Text Program. We work with Destin Fire, the county emergency operations, as well as the state park. Rich gathers the information. Each day, we put out an alert of what the flags will be. We started late last year. We started in June. We had 12,000 signups. 5,000 are still there and have not opted out, and the program will hopefully start on Friday. And then the adventure map. We handed out the adventure map. You'll see that throughout the county and different places, so we can, our goal is to move people around, not just entice them to come here and stay on the beach. There's so much more to do, and that's what this program does. Okay, we're going into summertime, and we're in our third season now of Destination Stewardship. Thank you so much for working with us last week. Outpost 1, God bless you, is back at Crystal Shores. Here's a little bit of a recap of what the program did. Remember, bless you, this program was just to give free lessons to kids who want to learn about our local culture.
I think it's important to offer free classes because it's an introduction, so people that are unfamiliar with it have the opportunity at no cost to come out and experience something that they may or may not like.
It was so fun, and we got to try a new thing, and it was just a great experience to have. It was a big adventure. It was the funnest thing I've ever done.
Who was excited about going fishing?
It's also mentally really healthy to get yourself outdoors. I don't know anybody whose day can't be turned around by getting outside for a little bit.
I caught a snail, a baby snail, and a couple of gotina clams. It was like 1,000 fun, which means very fun.
Without the adventure, what is there? That's what life is, right? Adventures, little adventures.
Again, we employ local scouts, local experts, and it's free. Last year we did 150 classes. Our goal this year is to do 500, beginning in May through the end of the summer. Outpost 1 is in its third year. Outpost 2 is actually going to be a roving vehicle that we can get on the beach, particularly down on Okaloosa Island. And then, of course, we have the 2 mobile units that can go wherever we need to go. They can go to the state park if allowed, and we'll do smaller pop-ups from there. So today I just wanted to say thank you, working with the city team and you all, and all of this should be ready in place by May 1st. And I'd be happy to answer questions.
Cool. At this time, anyone have any questions? Yep.
I just want to give a plug. Not only has Jennifer been a great team member and awesome for our visitors, but we're really trying to stress also for those that live here. Don't think that if you're not visiting that you can't have these adventures for your own kids. Right. 18 and lower, everyone has the opportunity to go to the Little Adventures website. And Jennifer was kind enough to bring in a bunch of their local stickers of the turtles. There's the kites, and then the lionfish there on the table out there. Help yourself, put the stickers on your cars, and enjoy whatever adventure. If you've got family, friends, and whatever coming in, go to the destinfwb.com, click on the Little Adventures, and pick out something and support our local businesses as well as giving your family a fun weekend or a fun get out.
And they're free.
So thank you for being here, Jennifer.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Okay, with that, I will bring up, I think, what third of the room is here for. Pickleball. The paddles and the... All right, so Kathy, take it away. Just push the button.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Kathy Heapy. I am the treasurer of the Emerald Coast Fitness Foundation. I'm also joined by Stan Croder and Pam Brasseth, who are on our finance committee and have done a lot of the legwork on this proposal. Our proposal is for public pickleball courts at the Taj Renee Community Aquatic Center in Destin. We have learned that pickleball is extremely popular and is growing by leaps and bounds. It is a wonderful sport for seniors, for people of all ages. There are even professional teams being formed. LeBron James apparently owns a professional pickleball team. School curriculums are starting to employ it into their PE programs, and communities all across the country are repurposing existing tennis courts or building new facilities in order to provide pickleball for their residents. Currently, courts are available in a few locations around. Buck Destin Park, I think, has two condos. Some of the condos and some of the subdivisions have them. They have indoor courts at the Destin Community Center. Destin United Methodist Life Center, I think, has a court. The Niceville Senior Center has some nice courts there. And then Fort Walton Beach, the city of Fort Walton has repurposed some of their pickleball courts to make, or some of their tennis courts to make pickleball courts in various locations, and they're always busy. And then I just noticed the Beach Weekend Company created a space where they have a pickleball court downtown Fort Walton that you can rent for $100 for 2 hours. But these all locations have limitations. They've got small numbers of courts. They are often restricted to pass holders or residents or people who know, you have to know somebody to use it. As we get into the spring and summer, driving to Fort Walton Beach from Destin is very unpopular. And most of those sites have lack of restroom facilities or any sort of control or support. And sometimes the Mooney Road ones are very busy. Sometimes you just can't get into play. And lack of supervision. We learned that the Destin City Council has been approached several times about pickleball courts over the years, and Tracy Clinkscales has made some very impressive presentations to you about the possibilities, and that in fiscal year 2021 budget, the city had $30,000 set aside to do something about pickleball, but it was also determined that that was not even enough to build one good court. And then the fiscal year 2022 budget, apparently $400,000 was earmarked for pickleball courts. So that indicates the city of Destin wants to do something to support pickleball courts. And I heard about this, basically, as we manage the Taj Renee Aquatic Center, the old Destin, over on Commons Drive. And when I heard about that money had been set aside and that the city was struggling to find a location that would, provide all the needs, enough space, enough number of courts and facilities, we realized that we have those things. We have space. We have locker room facilities. We have what can be a control point for safety and everything. So we came, and just so you guys understand, the Emerald Coast Fitness Foundation leases that facility from the Maddie Kelly Arts Foundation, and we lease a large sum of the property, not just the pool facility. So, and the lease started in 2017. It's a 10-year lease with a 10-year renewal. The usage of the land is governed by the Maddie Kelly Trust, which requires that the facilities thereon be used for providing aquatic programs and recreational activities for children under the age of 21, the elderly over the age of 55, and the public in general. So in keeping with the covenants of the trust, this also qualifies, and we have cleared that both with Maddie Kelly Arts Foundation and with the trustee. So our concept that we are presenting is to construct pickleball courts adjacent to our building where users would be able to use those locker rooms that are on the side facing Commons Drive. Well, they go all the way through to the pool, but there are ample restroom spaces and stuff in there. They're huge. Originally, the YMCA's plan was to build a gymnasium pretty much on that footprint. So the locker rooms and some of the other equipment was kind of overbuilt to accommodate that in anticipation. So there are like 16 toilet stalls in the ladies' locker room. These courts they'd be in a fenced-in area, so they would be secure, and usage to them would be governed, through one entrance where people, would have to sign a release, but basically they would come in. So we're not gonna have vagrants wandering in and things like that. It will be secured. And so we are asking, well, let me show you the locker rooms and stuff, facilities here. This just kind of shows the locker rooms, our front desk, and the walking path, the locker rooms to the left, and then the courts would be to the right. So it's very accessible. There is a lot of parking, and it would mesh very well with what we are already doing at the Aquatic Center for safety, fitness, recreation for people of all ages. So we are asking that the city partner with us to contribute the $400,000 to build pickleball courts for us to operate for the benefit of citizens and visitors to the city of Destin. The benefits would be tremendous in that guests and snowbirds would also be welcome. People will come and stay here for the shoulder season because they can play outdoors. They will play during the winter when it's chilly. I won't say cold, but we have people that swim when it's chilly, so they will play when it's chilly. We can have opportunities for engagement about this and the city being able to advertise this when they meet with snowbirds, when they advertise for tourism. This is an amenity to the community that you all can advertise. We will be able to offer pickleball lessons to both groups and private, and hoping to form like leagues and teams. It would be great, I think, to have some community, like company teams instead of softball. We have pickleball teams, and we get locals really involved in something competitive, but positive and fun. But a facility with 10 courts like this, let me go back here, would be able to host tournaments. And it would be able to do multiple things. We could have open play courts, and then we could also have courts set aside for lessons or school teams or whatever. With 10 courts, we can accommodate all of those things. And then also tournaments on weekends or whatever are very popular. They can make a lot of money for all sorts of causes. I think the school district is doing one to raise money for the School District Foundation at the end of this month. So we are proposing, again, that these be constructed on our property, our rented property, with more money, basically, and then we will operate them, provide the electricity, collect the revenue, and take care of all the people that come to it. We would also ask that you consider an annual stipend to help us set aside money for future repairs, upgrades, expansion, whatever. That amount of money is whatever. So the beneficiaries of this would include the Emerald Coast Fitness Foundation. We will benefit by doing this. We will gain revenue. We will gain usership and people coming to play pickleball that will find out we have a pool there, and that is just fine with us. The city of Destin will benefit from being able to provide this facility for their citizens. The Destin residents will have a place to play for free or discounted rates. The school kids will be able to learn and practice, and our senior citizens will have a place with a good, healthy activity. Local businesses will be able to sponsor, put up advertising signs, be sponsoring a good, healthy, wholesome activity. And the pickleball community will have an accessible, reliable facility to use for their playing, their fun, their tournaments, and their activities as well. Construction costs, we've been doing some research. City staff got estimates from a company in Mobile that it would cost roughly $75,000 per court. It seems to be all-inclusive, but that was also sight unseen. We have been doing some additional price searching and think we can do better than that, especially with local companies here. But what we would propose is that we promise to build with that $400,000 at least 4 courts. But we will undoubtedly do more because more will benefit all of us. Let's see, then, so in summary, I mean, it's all good. It's a great partnership. It would be a win-win for both the Emerald Coast Fitness Foundation, the City Council, and the citizens of Destin. As I said, we can provide land, locker rooms, operational support, and safety staff. We have people, lifeguards on the facility that can render first aid and handle emergencies. Where a lot of these other court facilities, there's nobody there. You can drop dead of a heart attack and hope maybe somebody comes along and finds you. I don't know, but that's a danger, I think. This will add a healthy, wholesome activity and also be an opportunity for sports tourism. And I know that that's a new focus around here, as it should be. So this would be a way to bring people in for these tournaments. And again, good, wholesome family fun. So does anyone have questions?
I got a few up here. So,
Okay.
Councilwoman?
It sounds fantastic. We've been trying to do this for years. It's just been a matter of, like you said, the land, not having a place to put it. Now that you've offered, I don't know if we need to make a motion, Kyle, to give this $400,000 to them and maybe encourage the TDC to come in because it is going to help the tourism, and maybe the county because they might want to help donate some money. So I think we have options because this is going to be a win-win, like you said, for the citizens, the residents that live here, but also, those off months, the snowbirds, and then, of course, tourism, bringing in sports activities in the off months as well. Mm-hmm. So what's the next step for that?
I would just say, I think that staff and myself, we would be looking for some direction on how to proceed on this negotiation, whether it's just contributing money or however else you want, and what do you want to see out of an agreement like this?
Yeah.
Kim, can you speak to what we as a city, with this piece of land not being ours, what would be our, stipends if we were able to get more money out of maybe the county or the TDC? I mean,
You're just saying that because they're here.
yeah, I want this county and the TDC to know this is a win-win. Let's, we could definitely get more to help make this happen, for it to happen sooner rather than later.
Yes.
I would just say, I'm sure that all of the current partners negotiating this agreement would welcome additional partners, particularly if the TDC wanted to contribute some money. I don't think we would say no, but I don't think we've reached out. So this might be the first they're hearing of that.
Yeah.
Well, I know we have other folks up here that want to talk, but at the end, I'd like to make a motion of that sort to have city staff conclude this with, others to get their buy-in for it, and then authorize the $400,000 to go to pay for this.
All right, Councilman Destin.
Thank you, Mayor, and I think everybody up here is probably in favor of going forward to create some pickleball courts. And having once or twice done this before, I think our proper procedure is to direct the city staff to enter into an interlocal agreement with the swimming pool, Emerald Coast, ECC, however that goes, and one that everybody is agreeable with, that follows the outline that she has been talking to the city about, and bring that back to us. How long do you estimate, city manager or land use attorney and city attorney, how long do you think it would take to hammer something like that out?
The actual agreement itself, I don't think would be particularly complex. It would be essentially an operations and donor agreement, similar to what happened with the YMCA, but I think that we would include additional clawback provisions and protections for the
Yeah, we
city
left that
in this
out last
particular
time.
instance. Yeah.
But I think that the only time that it's going to take is going to be to iron out some of these details, because while they are fairly specific, I know there's some generalizations that everybody has to agree on, but I know that we all want to go forward as best we can, as long as we can, both sides meet the expectations. So I'll make a motion to direct the city manager and the staff to go forward to negotiate with the ECCF, sorry, to bring back an interlocal agreement, or whatever you want to call the document, to go forward with this project.
I'll second.
Only thing, do it ask that you include the Mattie Kelly Arts Foundation in that? They'll have to be part of
Absolutely.
the agreement.
As the underlining owner, I would think they would have to be there.
Awesome.
And what time frame do we think? Because we don't want to drag our feet too long on this.
And just for everyone's record, we've had two kind of soft meetings with this already, so
Yeah, so
to
some
Cal's
of it's
point, we
already
kind of
worn
had
out.
that molding.
I'm talking with Lance. We think we could probably bring something back by the first meeting in May.
That's exactly what I was going to hope for. I'll include that in the motion.
Mr. Bagby, Councilman Bagby. Oh, Kevin, sorry about that. I misread the first next. Mr. Guile, go ahead. No, go. I'm hitting buttons over here. Yep, you just hit it.
I'll withdraw my time based off what Dewey said.
Okay, Councilman Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate it. And for the folks here tonight, thank you all for coming. We have been working on this and talking about this for a few years, and the money has been changed and moved in different budgets and things like that. But I do have a few questions, if you don't mind entertaining me for a little bit, as well as comments just going into y'all's negotiations as well. You mentioned, or we got some estimates from somebody. Is somebody going to speak to those tonight before I ask some questions?
Tracy,
Can somebody speak to those?
Do you want to?
So, can I talk about what we...
Yeah, please. That's part of the Aquatic Center.
Apologize. I wanted to start with that. I'd like to hear about those estimates that we got emailed to us late Friday.
I'm Pam Brasseth. I'm with the Emerald Coast Fitness Foundation as well, and I've learned more about pickleball courts than I ever thought I would learn about. We've had a number of estimates given to us. We've gotten a couple of turnkey estimates. In other words, they come and they do everything, the lights, the fencing, the whole bit. We've gotten everything from $75,000 a court out of Mobile. We got $62,500 to $80,000 a court from a company in Tallahassee. This morning, Tracy sent over a thing from a company in Milton that had 10 courts for $330,000. Sounded absolutely great, except when you looked at it, the fence isn't high enough and there's no lighting. Lighting's $137,000 to light the 10 courts, according to Beard and Electric, which we got a quote from. We've talked to individual people to see what we can build, and that's why we say we can guarantee 4 courts, but our goal is to really put up 10, and so we are doing all the work we can to find local people. I've learned about asphalt versus concrete, and clay and sand versus crushed limestone or crushed concrete as a base, and what you want and what you don't want. And so I think we have an opportunity to get close to our 10 courts in the initial phase. With the $400,000, we will go back to the company in Milton and say, okay, now give us a bid that has a 6-foot fence all the way around, that has lighting, or do we need to meld in that $137,000 in lighting from the electric company as part of the bid? But it looks like between $400,000 and $500,000, we can build all 10 courts in a go. And so that's truly our goal. We worked with local contractors on getting prices. We've got an engineer that's looking at the plans. Fortunately, the Y built all their retention ditches and everything, planning on a basketball court on that land. And so the retention ditches are there, and unless the requirements have changed, we don't even have to do that. We just need to do the site work for the actual courts. Tracy told me today that 22 degrees off north is the optimum. I took my little phone by that picture. Tracy, is 25 okay? Because that picture that we showed with the 10 courts up there is 25 degrees off north. And so that was, trying to listen and learn about what the pickleball community wants and what the city wants, and you know.
Thank you.
We've even been approached and somebody said, when you get it going, if somebody gave you the money, would you put a cover on it? And I went, somebody gave us the money. Yeah. And so, and so we're hoping that with your thing, once that's in place, that other people will come on board when you're talking about the TDC or businesses or whatever. But your money's going to be what gets it off the ground and gets it going and makes it possible. Because with that, we can guarantee that there will be pickleball courts there.
Got it. Thank you very much for the explanation. Because when I saw that $300 and something thousand quote for 10 courts, and then you said maybe 4 courts, I was like, didn't add up. So
Well, I didn't know if you saw that.
I saw it. I did. I was getting excited.
It was nice and.
That's fine. I think going into this year, we put $400,000 into the budget for the idea of the City of Destin building and, having pickleball courts. And the citizens as well think that and consider that as well. So, there's cautious on my side of caution to make sure we're representing the city and the citizens correctly by giving $400,000 to build them. Yes, they'll be used by some citizens and there'll be a benefit, and I completely agree, and that's very exciting. But there was also a lot of potential positive opportunities by owning our own land and putting our own type of stuff and adding to our parks and things like that. So, it's a lot of money to just, here you go. The only other thing I have with the proposal is the item about the stipend, annual stipend. Me personally, I would be cautious about putting 50% of it towards your general fund, on an annual basis, because we're not, in my opinion, here to do that right now. We're here to hopefully get pickleball courts, built and to support pickleball. And I just want to be cautious to the city to say we're also going to, our annual stipend is going to help your whole foundation as well. So
Please
me
understand
personally, I'd like to keep that
that we
separate.
will incur increased electricity costs, increased cost of, restroom facility usage, toilet paper, all that kind of stuff, and we will have to hire
Sure.
staff. And I'm not factoring that into the $400,000.
Right. I understand that completely. It's also part of the organization's job to budget appropriately, to have the finances to support your organization. So when the day comes, that's just something I would be cautious about to represent the city. But I know the pickleball is huge, it's popular, it's exciting, and it's worldwide, and it is amazing. So I'll definitely support going forward with trying to figure this out with you guys.
All right, Councilman Bagby.
Yeah, I think we're all supportive of the pickleball. What did the Parks and Recs Committee have to say about this proposal? Okay, that's crickets. Did this proposal go before Parks and Rec?
I'll take the heat on that one and say, as the fact finder, it all kind of came together, and with this being budgeted in 2021, I just figured we would.
Lisa was involved in our meetings about it.
Okay.
Yes, Lisa was there.
That's not the part,
She's aware.
Lisa is not the Parks and Rec Committee, guys. She's the staff. So we have a Parks and Recs Committee for a reason. So we get their input, their buy-in, their knowledge. They're probably as knowledgeable about Parks and Recreation as anybody up here on this dais, except for Lance, who was the Parks and Rec Director. So I would just ask that we get their input on this proposal, and that's part of the staffing. We've got a month, but that is part of the staffing. Some things I'd like to see and we talk about our money. It is not our money. It is the citizens of Destin's money. Okay, $400,000. Okay, it's the money that they paid, the residents, not now. And I agree, we should be reaching out as part of this process, and I would assume that would be in the negotiation, the county, the TDC, or whatever. But one of my hard non-negotiables is the citizen discount. Okay? If the citizens, or free, if the citizens of this city are given $400,000 to somebody, they ought to get something for that other than some really nice looking pickleball courts outside the swimming hole. Okay, so that's just like we do, you know, beach access, Joe's Bayou. I mean, we have a precedent for this parking. So somehow that's got to be worked in. There's got to be some indemnification. Yeah, I know, I'm not a big word guy, but for the city, okay? There's got to be a clause in there, paragraph in there. The stipend, I'm with Kevin on this. You know, if you need to charge more to make sure that you're covering the increased cost in the lighting and the increased cost in the use of the bathrooms and the staffing up of the facility, charge more. That's we're not telling you what you can or can't charge, other than there's going to be a discount for my vote for the citizens of this town. Because I'm not a big fan of stipends going forward. They tend to grow and grow, and all of a sudden we're spending $100,000 a year, you know, on the pickleball courts that we basically paid to put in. So I'm just not a big fan of that. Other than that, I just wanted us to follow the process, and I'm glad Mr. Destin made the motion that he did. I support the pickleball courts. I want to see them built. I want to see them, but I want to see us do our homework. I want to see us follow our process. I did have one question, one concern that you won't be able to answer tonight, but when I pulled up the map and counted the parking spots, there's parking basically for swim meets, or not even really swim meets, just normal use of the pool.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be, one of the questions I will ask when y'all bring it back is, and how are we going to do the parking? Because if every one of those pickleball players drove their own car, and I know they don't, couples come and they all come in, you know, a group of four or minivan or something, but if everybody drove their own car, that's every single parking spot there, and that's not even the staff, and that's not even anybody in the pool. So, you know, let's look forward and anticipate problems and see if we can't bring back a solution. But otherwise, I'm happy. Thank you.
All right, Councilman King.
Thank you, sir. Hey, just wanted to say thanks for the presentation. I'm very much in support of this endeavor as well. I would echo what Mr. Bagby and Mr. Schmidt had to say about this being as far as this partnership goes. I mean, we take great pride in what we are doing around here. I think it's evident in the capital projects that we have going on. I would prefer to see, you know, there have been issues in the past with using a potentially subpar type of contractor that if we're going to go that route, I would say let's give that some more thought. I'd rather have 6 wow pickleball courts than 10, you know, that are.
We're going to build 10 wild ones.
Okay, great. And so. No, okay, that's perfect. That's what I want to hear, because I drive by that every day, and yeah, and this has potential to totally revamp that whole thing, draw a wonderful crowd of people to it. You know, I think, and I know may not be looking for ideas, but I can tell you that.
His button's on though.
Yeah, so if you build 10 awesome, I mean, well, I'm excited. I think it's great. I think that I would like to support you in this. Thank you so much.
All right, Councilman Destin. We'll wrap the inning.
Yeah, I think some good points were made by Mr. Bagley, Mr. Schmidt, and Mr. King. All those things will be worked out mutually, I hope, in the interlocal, which is what it's all about. We'll address those issues, and we all know after this meeting that we need to address them. So we're taking the first step, which is to go forward and iron those details out and get them where both sides can live with them. And my only observation on the stipend is if we were to build it ourselves and staff it with 4 people, guess how much that costs? About $200,000 a year just on employees. So need to bear that in mind.
All right, Councilman Gall, you got any yeses or no before we bring it to a vote?
I'm good.
All right. All right. At this point, I'll call the vote. All right, vote passes unanimous. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all
Thank
for
you
coming.
very much.
Give them a minute to leave.
All right. So if you guys want to leave at this point, you're more than welcome to. Unless
Grab
you want
your
to stay for
stickers.
the more fun. We got more fun coming along.
Grab your TD stickers on the way out.
Yeah. All right, as you guys leave, please leave quickly, orderly, and quietly. All right, so at this time, I will start the public comment portion of this meeting. So starting from my right, y'all's left, anyone on this side giving public comments on anything up other than, Mr. Jarvis.
Evening, folks. That was an interesting discussion. We were talking about pickleballs for our years 11 months ago. So glad to see you guys moving forward on that. I just want to say I saw the agenda that there's going to be an item about approving the purchase of 2 of the properties to make sure the Crosstown Connector continues on its present course of completion. I'd like to see that thing completed during my lifetime. A couple other council members would probably too. So I just encourage you tonight to go ahead and press forward with that. The only other comments I have is I'm still a strong proponent of the city center. I know Mr. Desson made a motion a couple of meetings ago for the staff to explore whether the people that are under contract for that property, they still don't own it as we speak yet, if they're interested in maybe selling that piece of property. So I look forward to hearing those answers, and then I'll make comments on that at a later time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I forgot Gary Jarvis, 804 Marsh Street.
There you go. I was about to buzz you.
No, I don't mind updating you at all. Louis and Guzzi did reach out to the representatives from Publix about potentially selling the city a part of that property. And at this time, and I just want to preface at this time, that they're not interested in selling anything to the city because they're pursuing their own ideas of what that will look like. But that doesn't mean that if we don't keep talking to them that they won't. So right now, that's where they're at, but I don't believe they even close until May, so.
All right, thank you. All right, Ron, push the button. Yep. Name and address, sir.
My name's Ron Sandstead, and my wife and I live at 337 Calhoun Avenue. And I've been here 26 years now, and one of the things I did when I first came to Denver was I drove over the Destin Bridge, and I saw that beautiful Caribbean water, and fell in love. One of my first reactions was to start laughing. And then I started seeing what some of the special interests had done around Destin and are continuing to do here. We live in a special place, some call it a paradise. What struck me almost speechless was that instead of trying to reserve the natural beauty we have here, it became apparent that it was something to be exploited. Among other things, beach access was quickly becoming a thing of the past and became available to only the privileged. Locals were being excluded. Now this is being corrected with the programs that you guys are doing, buying beach property and knocking the houses down and getting beach access. This is great, I love it. Now I've been hearing about the linear park for the last 10 years. It was originally part of a plan the city paid big bucks for back in the 90s. A former city manager, Mary Ann Eustick, called together a group of developers, architects, and citizens to give their opinion as to what would be the best improvement for our Main Street and our town center. And they all said a linear park going from Airport Road to Main Street. Then the idea seemed to fall off the radar and die. I have seen during COVID, the city staff decided to take the project over, and kudos to them. Unfortunately, they did not seem to understand that the linear park was supposed to be a park. I've seen the city's plan. It is basically a roadway with medians and crosswalks, and with that would come ditches, storm sewers, and, oh yes, a sidewalk. No bike or jogging trail, no parking for park goers, no exercise areas, no picnic areas, no splash park, no flower gardens, no light poles, no art, and certainly no ability to relax and enjoy what nature we have left here in Destin. Even more disturbing, they have connected this new roadway to Highway 98 in two places. This guarantees a lot of traffic through what is supposed to be a park. Let's be clear, a roadway will not fix 98. Our city has been given a grant from the state of Florida to design a park, not a roadway. With the grant, there is plenty of money to design a park, but not a roadway. City staff needs to stop any plans for a roadway and concentrate on doing what they are supposed to be doing. We need a park where families can gather, people can connect with each other, and we can all connect with what little nature remains in Destin. I am asking all of you on this city council to take a stand. I am asking you to stand up for those of us who voted for you and live here year-round. The locals. Give us a real linear park and not another roadway. Please, let's stop paving over paradise.
Thank you.
No, just Steve.
All right, anyone else in the middle? Yes, sir. Chairman.
You know, Jim Wood, 3790 Misty Way. You know, I lost part of the crowd. I forgot my tuxedo at home, so I guess we'll go from there. So, good job, young man. So I write actually something in your consent agenda. I probably don't need to get up and talk about my thoughts as Mr. Burgess is not here. I've got a purchase order for 6 flashing pedestrian crossings to go. We've got 3 already on Airport Road and 1 on Legion. I was a little not happy at first with some of them, but we made a couple of changes to some of the lights. I noticed one on Airport Road say flashing actually in the daylight, and it showed up pretty well. I was surprised, actually. That's a real dark area, so I'd ask for your support. We're going to spend $60,000. I had $62,500 left over, so I got $2,500 left, so can't do much with that, so we'll see what that does in the future. But I'm a big proponent in consistent sight picture and want to put the same thing all through town so both pedestrians and drivers see the same thing. So most of these will go in Crystal Beach. I might hold 1 or 2 out for some other places. We'll see how that goes. I want to make it very clear because we have the crossings on 98. They have the yellow, red, and green lights. So when it's red, you stop. When it's green, you go. These are flashing white lights. They are not stop signs. They are not stop lights. So pedestrians, you've got to look both ways. It's a simple math problem. I weigh 200 pounds. A car weighs 3,000 to 4,000. That math don't hunt. So look both ways and make sure it's clear before you go. I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Jim.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. I was going to ask on the consent this item, so if I could ask you
Please,
a question,
yes, absolutely.
please. Y'all did this at Public Works and Safety?
Correct.
So on our item, we have 6 signs, 6 locations.
Correct.
And then it says, or can be installed at alternate locations to include 2 spots.
Right.
So it's like a 6 or a 2 type of thing.
It'll be, well, there's a total of 8 locations, so 6 of those locations are going to get them. The question is whether all 6 go to Crystal Beach or whether I pull 2 out and put them in the other locations.
And are y'all going to have the opportunity to make those final 6 decisions?
we will.
All right, thank you very
all
much.
Good. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
One of the, my thoughts are, on Main Street, right there by Main Street Park, there is the white stripes in the street, which I don't know if that's an area that you could end up putting one there, because there is a lot of traffic crossing there as far as pedestrians with their dogs, kids walking over, fishing and all that. That's become a very busy pedestrian walk as you pass the Main Street Park itself going up north on Main Street. If there was the flashing there, because at dusk, a lot of people will leave the park and then head home and walk across, so it having those flashing white, if you can talk to your team about that being one of the
I actually like the
alternates.
idea. We'll see how.
If you look at it, you'll see it makes sense,
Yeah,
but have your team look at that.
I walk up there lots. I do
Yes.
understand the issue there, so we'll take a look at that one. So I
Perfect.
appreciate that.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Anybody else?
Good. Thank you so much. All right, going to my left. Anyone? Yes, ma'am. All right, just push the button, let the light go red, name and address.
I'm Jan Reppert. I live at 707 Main Street. I live kind of diagonally across from Miss Bear. This would actually be about my fourth time that I have brought up the speeding and passing on our street. The first time was actually before they implemented the stop signs at Kelly and Main when the little boy got killed. And I was here for a different issue, and I brought up the speeding. When they put up the stop signs, it definitely helped a little bit, for a little while. But now it's just unbelievable. When they come past that little Main Street Park, which we could really use two humps, one at that little park that y'all were just talking about. When they come down that curve by that lake and Joe's Bayou, I guess that's what you call it, they speed up, okay? We live on the west side, okay? We have no sidewalks, but there's a lot of pedestrians on the other side. And sometimes they'll walk on our side too, which is unusual because we don't have a sidewalk. But there's people on bicycles. I was behind a bicyclist the other day that actually had a bike thing until a certain point, but never got over in it. People are passing. When we pull out, we have to look both ways because people will pass this way and that way. Other day, I was in the kitchen and my driveway and my front windows are facing the street. And I heard this loud, either motorcycle or car or whatever. And I just happened to look. I just wanted to see what it was. And there was a little silver car coming, and this big orange truck just went right around it and just as fast as he could. We don't stay out in the front a lot. We stay in the back of the house. But this time of year, we're out working in the yard and trying to clean up and get the leaves. And just to check the mail is just, it's very scary. And they don't slow down. I mean, you get up the end of the road, and they don't even see you. I'm serious. Uh-oh, I'm stuck. I'm stuck. Anyway, we could use two speed humps, okay? But one, I don't want to be greedy, because one would be wonderful somewhere between Miss Bear's and that area. And when I see traffic slowing down, going slow out there, I know something's going on. You know, something's either the mailman or UPS man. Well, the other day, I saw it slowing down, and I thought, what's going on? Well, my neighbor has some chickens across the street. I don't have a problem with chickens. They're beautiful chickens. Well, guess what? The chickens were crossing the road. Foul play going on, and if it takes getting chicken crossing signs, we'll take them. But we need some humps. But yeah, it was 4 chickens. I think we're down to 2. It's not mine. I don't care. They can stay. But if we all need to get chickens, we'll get chickens. But I appreciate it if you can help.
Thank you so much. All right. Anyone else? All right, seeing Jim, can you hit that button? Thank you. All right, so with that. Thank you. All right, with that, I'll close the public comments and get into our third, which is our consent agenda, and I will entertain a motion.
I'll make
to
that
approve.
motion.
Motion and a second. Any other discussions? Seeing none?
Bagby's not here.
Do we still have quorum? Do we need to?
He's here, he has to vote.
If he's still at the meeting, yeah, he needs to vote. And I'm assuming he has not left.
I won't say what I was thinking. We're voting on the consent agenda. All right, ayes have it, so moved. All right, up next, City Manager Report, Mr. Lance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 4A is acquisition of property for the Crosstown Connector. Staff is seeking approval to purchase 602 Sandalwood along with 604 Sandalwood Drive. Assuming that those two purchases are approved, that would leave us with one more piece of property to acquire. And we have Jeff Cozad here to answer any questions, or myself.
All right, I will entertain a motion at this time.
I move that City Council approve purchase of 602 Sandalwood Drive and authorize city manager to execute purchase agreement and proceed with the closing.
I have
Second.
the second. I'll open discussions. Councilman Destin?
I just one observation to make it. I read in the document here that we are building this road to relieve traffic congestion on Highway 98. Well, I know the answer to that is supposed to know, but that's what it says in this document, which gives me a little bit of pause. I want it to not be misunderstood that we're building this to relieve traffic congestion on 98. That wouldn't be a stipulation for the FDOT money, would it?
I can't speak specifically to that, but possibly.
Well, can anyone speak specifically to that?
What's the question?
The question was, is it necessary for us to put into these documents that we are building this road to relieve traffic congestion on Highway 98 in order to qualify for the FDOT funds?
Is it a trip grant?
Can we bring that back after we have a chance to review the trip
Why don't
grant?
you do that, because I'm interested to know the answer to that. Thank you. I will vote for it nonetheless at this time.
Yeah. And then everyone takes a breath. All right, so no further discussions. I'll call the vote. All right, one step further. Ayes have it, so moved.
I also move the City Council approve purchase of 604 Sandalwood Drive, authorize city manager to execute the purchase agreement and proceed with closing.
Second.
First, do I hear a second? Second. With a second, I'll entertain a discussion. Councilman Schmidt?
I'm going to wait till after we vote, if you don't mind.
All righty, will do. All right, so I'll call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved.
What's the status on the last piece? Is that our last holdup?
That's correct. My understanding is the person that lives there that owns the property has been unresponsive.
So what's our plan to get the last piece of the puzzle? If they're being unresponsive, how are we going to get it to finish this project?
I think that we're going to give Marcia Hayes, our consultant, one last crack, and then we might use some local sources to try and help us make contact with the individual. My understanding is she's just mostly been unresponsive at this point.
How long have we been trying to reach her?
I would say at least 6 months, maybe longer.
Are we sure she hasn't passed away or something terrible?
No, people have seen her. But we've left notes. She's sent her mail. When she's in town, she stops and knocks on the residence. So numerous efforts have been made. And up to this point, she hasn't responded to any of those.
Maybe by the next meeting, we don't have an answer, we can have Marcia explain herself on what she's doing, I guess, or maybe a new plan so we can push this through.
I have asked Marcia for a report just on the activities she's, taken so far, but I haven't received that back yet.
She's a realtor, gets fees, and it's her job, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, let's see if we can finish this, hopefully, or find somebody that can, I guess. That'd be my thought.
All right, anyone else have any comments before we move on? All right, seeing none, back to you, Lance.
Thank you. Just a few quick announcements. The Harbor Capacity Steering Committee will meet on April the 10th at 5:30 p.m. in this room. At that meeting, the Army Corps will be in attendance to present the Harbor Carrying Capacity Studies Draft Report. And to prepare the report, vessel traffic patterns were assessed at the Destin Harbor entrance over the 2022 summer season, as well as observations of usage at several key harbor facilities. Coming up this week, we have 2 Easter egg hunts, which are very popular in Destin. On Wednesday, April the 5th at 10 a.m., the library is having their Easter egg hunt for toddlers and preschoolers, so please join them at the library. And then on this coming Saturday, the city's annual Easter egg hunt will take place on the 8th at Morgan Sports Center beginning at 9 a.m. And it is designed for youth ages 12 years old and under. Just a few more announcements. 28 Parks and Recreation employees received training last week and are now certified in CPR, which means that 28 out of the 32 staff in that department are now certified. On the public information front, there are a few notes for you. 7 magazine articles were written for local and regional magazines, and we had a 100% pickup rate on those. A video we created featuring Henderson Beach State Park is now being used by the Florida State Park System as part of their statewide promotions. And there are several second quarter that I'd like to share with you. Sick leave usage was down 10% from our first quarter. There were 5 trainings on health, wellness, and policy education for staff. We had performance evaluations. Evaluations showed 18% were meeting expectation, 36% exceeding expectation, and 45% were clearly outstanding. We have onboarded in the last quarter 9 full-time and 3 part-time employees and had a 6% organizational growth from our first quarter. As you know, our Director of Public Works and Emergency Management is not here tonight because he is currently attending and representing the City of Destin at the National Hurricane Conference. There will be a community yard sale on Saturday, April the 15th from 8 a.m. to noon at Buck Destin Park, and we encourage you to reserve a spot if you'd like to be a vendor by calling the community center. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, moving along, we'll go into public hearings. So Kyle, take it away.
Thanks, Bobby. First, we have item 5A, which we'll treat as a quasi-judicial hearing. This is Jake Hebert of Custom Tower LLC on behalf of Destin Water Users, Inc. in Okaloosa County, requesting approval of a minor development order. The project scope consists of the construction of a new 911/P25 communication tower and the associated site infrastructure. The project is proposed at 218T Main Street, and consistent with our quasi-judicial hearing, starting with Kevin, I just want to see if there's been any ex parte communications and if y'all can render an unbiased decision tonight.
Just all the meetings and discussions we've had with staff and county officials, and it will not render my decision.
You'll be unbiased.
I'll be unbiased. Same.
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 Same. I've also had conversations with Eglin Air Force Base, specifically the test wing, who has some areas of concern. Thank you.
And I had those same conferences with the county. I also had a meeting prior to that with the county officials and Mr. Keith Howard, and have spoken to he or his associates on the issue, but will not affect my ability to hear.
I will remain unbiased.
All right, thanks, Council. And Craig, I know you're here and going to present. I know you've got quite the contingent here. I don't know if you plan on having anyone else testify, but if you do want to stand and raise your right hand, whoever's planning on testifying, and any member of city staff and any member of the community who wants to testify. All right. Do all of y'all swear and affirm the testimony you're about to provide is the truth? All right. Thanks, guys. And with that, Craig, I'll turn it over to you.
Started off good here. Thank you, council members, mayor. Appreciate it. It's an honor to be before you tonight. Let me first start saying I'm not here to ask you for a stipend or any money.
Let me just get your name and address real quick, just for the record as well.
Yeah.
Name and address.
I'm here to ask you really for a yes on an important public safety matter. What's it?
Name and address,
Oh,
please.
name and address.
Yes.
Craig Coffey, Valparaiso, 223 Bayshore Drive.
That was just a personal question. I appreciate that.
There you go. Personal address. Come by and visit. No, I'm here for a important public safety matter, and what I want to do is talk to you about a little bit about the system that we're presenting, and really drill down to the tower itself and what we did to get here today. To start with, we are working on a essentially a 12-tower system. That's a countywide system. It's a emergency grade P25, meets national standards for first responders. The county started this process in 2018. We did a study. We hired a national firm to do that study. The study came back and then suggested we build a system of a certain magnitude, and that's what we did. That's what we're doing, I should say. So we're doing that for over 30 different public service agencies, safety agencies in the county. This is all your fire department, your EMS, all your law enforcement. And right now, there's gaps in our system. They can't communicate. They could be right next to each other on the street and they can't talk. They got to go through dispatch. There's all kinds of problems in the city of Destin I'll talk about. If you get up in some of the condo buildings, you get into Walmart, you get into too far out in the water, et cetera, there's all kinds of gaps and blockages to your system. And I will say that our system's very frail too. If you got hit with a hurricane, you would not have an emergency safety system to help your first responders and protect their lives so they can help the citizens of Destin and everyone else in the county. That's kind of the 12 systems, and that kind of shows you where they are, the height of the towers throughout the county. We are building this. It's at a cost to the county of a little over $17 million is the system itself. We're investing $7.5 million just to buy everybody radios. And I'm talking in your lifeguards. I'm talking about your fire department here. I'm talking about your sheriff's department that serves you, your EMS first responders. Everybody will essentially have that. And we're also working with school resource officers in the schools. We'll have this system as well. So let's talk about Destin specific and how we got here. So we didn't, it was all about coverage. It was all about meeting these standards that we had set in the system in order so our first responders could get adequate coverage everywhere. We really worked hard on the south end of the county, specifically Destin and Okaloosa Island. Why? Number one, we have a lot of density here as far as the buildings. We also have a lot of people that come through both those areas. You think about tourists and residents alike, and it's just a more intense area all around. Our first location that we would have loved to put a tower was in and around the airport. Why? Okaloosa County owned that land, and also it was the center part, essentially, of the area we were trying to cover. So anytime you can cover the central part of the area, you get better coverage that way. We couldn't do it. Why? And I'll talk about this in a second. We couldn't do it because of a lot of aviation concerns, various things like that. And I'll show you that in some of the things I sent you, and I'll cover those here in a second. So that tower in the green area would have been a 150-foot tower plus. So we have to go to the broader area, which is the red area. The red area is a 200-foot tower, and that's where we essentially found a spot. We found that spot in our partner that we constantly work with is Destin Water Users in the industrial zoned area, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too. Those dots represent locations, and this table here represents 10 different locations that we looked at around the city. So, and you'll see on there, you'll see water towers. I think people brought up that. They brought up existing towers. You have existing towers that are 177 feet, and we'll talk about those and some of the issues with those. These are kind of represented as far as the location. You see the county line to the far right. You'll see the two dots there. One of those dots to the right there by the, in the center part, I can't really point to it, I don't think, but there are two dots that are closer together. One's the water tower, one's the proposed tower that we're talking about tonight. Outside of that, you'll see another water tank, and you'll see another tower, the 177-foot tower. All of these, and I provided these to you in advance, all of these have issues as far as you may not control the tower. The tower may not be constructed to a certain level where you can add more equipment. You pay rent on that tower, which is not as good for the taxpayer. Every time you add a piece of equipment, that's additional cost, additional valuation of the tower, et cetera. Sometimes our tower, we've got to put equipment, or most of the equipment, the smart equipment's in a shelter at the bottom of the tower. We have backup generation. We have a fuel source to fund that backup generation. So you have all those different types of concerns that go into the aspect of locating a tower. But these are just some of the reasons there. If you get into a water tower, you add all those existing tower locations plus a bunch more on a water tower. A water tower is even more problematic. And I've been asked, well, why don't you just raise the water tower 60 feet? Well, it just doesn't work that way, folks. In the construction world, you can't just raise the water tower 60 feet. We don't own the water tower, plus the cost would be astronomical, the engineering would be astronomical, and you still deal with a lot of extra things besides rent and loss of coverage, et cetera, et cetera. Today, we're here before you at Tower. It's been a long process, and I'll talk about that in a second. But if we were to deviate from the tower location we have today in Destin, you will delay the project by well over a year, and we could be back in the same situation a year from now with 50, 100, 200 residents out there screaming at you for the same issue. We are trying to solve our public safety issue today, solve it with this tower, and we've been at this thing in the city of Destin for over 18 months. We sat down and came down and sat down with your staff to come up with the location that's before you today. And that's where that pin is on this map. With this site, we have almost perfect coverage, except Mr. Bagby's house. No, the blue is not necessarily a bad thing. It just, we set a higher standard of 30 dBH, and it could be a 20 dBH. We still have good coverage there. It's just not meeting our standard, and we allowed for a deviation because no matter what kind of system you build, there will always be some dead spots, some gaps, lack of perfection. But this is the best scenario. We're at 97.7% for our coverage map, and we'll take that all day long. Now let's talk about the site in specific. We picked this site because we knew of it as far as, again, we had partnerships with Destin Water Users. We work with them on a lot of different things. We already store our beach equipment in the back there. It's right next to an electric substation on the south side of that drawing, if you see there. The site we picked is going to be hidden behind Destin Water Users building. It's going to be hidden by some other buildings and vegetation all around. To the right of that, on that drawing, is actually the sewage drying beds, and then there's a sewage pond as well. So you have a lot of stuff going on in this industrial area, and we purposely try to pick an area that's least offensive as far as what citizens would see or experience as far as a tower. Now, having said that, when you look at that, a lot of those at the ground level will be blocked. If you're in a car driving down Main Street, you probably won't see it. If you have a line of sight essentially that's over bushes or around a building, et cetera. This is an example of what the tower will look like. There'll be 3 antenna on top, grounding rod, 2 antenna. There'll be a microwave dish at about 160 feet. And then there's places there we could add more antenna or not, and I'll talk about those in a second. This is an example of a new one we just built. This is actually a new county tower up at Crestview. Now this is a much bigger tower. This is a 330 feet tower. So it's not going to be that big, but it's the example of what the pattern looks like. It's fairly tight patterned, self-support. There's no guide wires to injure birds or anything like that. It's common with, they say, with guide wires. And it's really designed to withstand 155 mile an hour winds. So it's designed to withstand a major storm event, as well as the generator, as well as all the elevations that you build into the system. And that's critical for if you've considering what's happened nearby us. Now, if you look at it, it's just like, I don't know if you've seen other towers, but if you go to Niceville, Fort Walton Beach, you go to even Destin, you can see towers around, and they're there, but they're off in the distance. You can't generally see the base of this thing, and that's what we really wanted to go for here. And I just gave you some vantage points. I'm not going to bore you with these, but we kind of, there's before and after of where the tower would be looking from different vantage points surrounding the tower, 360 degrees. And I know you could blow these up on it's one of the separate drawings I sent you, but so off in the distance, and again, it's all about perspective. So if you're sitting in a car, you're looking up, if you got trees in front of you, you might see the height of the tower potentially, but by and large, walking down the street, you're not going to see it. By and large, you'll see it off in the distance at best. So let's talk about how we got here today and our journey a little bit. So again, I told you we met with your staff about 18 months ago, started that process, said, hey, we're building this system. We're going to build towers here, and there. And we did that with all the jurisdictions. And I will tell you that most jurisdictions, this approval process is a staff process. And we're building one in Fort Walton Beach. They gave us a site behind their police station. We're building it. It's a staff level review. We're building it at the college, gave us a site. School board gave us a site. All those are building, all staff level reviews where we're getting those towers up and we're getting them built. This is a variance we did almost 6 months ago to the day. 6 months ago, we got approval for variance, and we didn't know if we should or not because the tower was 200 feet, anything over 200 feet, but because our antennas protruded, we wanted to be a good neighbor and say, hey, let's go ahead and do this. We notified everybody. And the other thing was a variance from the pond. I think we got a few 30 feet closer to the pond. We've gotten our FAA clearance. Now, FAA clearance is just like a permit that you get from one of these big agencies. They go out and they ask different people and get different agency reviews. And one of those is Eglin. So I was asked about Eglin. Does Eglin know about this? Eglin know about this? Yes, they know about this. We early on, one of my departments is the airports department. We have 3 airports. So we know the Eglin Airport guys. We sat and met with them early on before we submitted our first permit. We said, look, here's where we want towers. Help us with this. We don't want to cause any problems for Eglin. Let's sit and meet and discuss this. So we did that, and that's part of the FAA review. That's part of the review. They comment to the FAA. They don't send us a formal review. I do have an email, just says your towers are clean. We have no problems. But we had an issue in the Niceville Tower, and we worked through that. It was a very small, minor issue, and we were able to work through that with them. And the last thing we'd want to do is interfere with any Eglin's mission. And again, we're building these towers now, and we're on the move with those. FCC registration, that's another thing. And that's the end of my presentation. I'll just leave you with this. We're building a state-of-the-art system. We're building it to be robust and to protect all the residents. We haven't asked a dime from any of the cities, any of the first responder agencies. We're going to fund the ongoing maintenance out of taxpayer revenue. So we do want to add additional vendors on our towers where we can. If that's a concern for you folks here tonight, we're willing to forego that. Public safety is our #1 concern. However, I would ask 2 things of you on that particular issue. One is I would leave the door open for you to approve it in the future should you so choose, because your citizens, today's world, they want the AT&T, they want FirstNet, and they may have bad coverage. I've heard there's bad coverage out there. And what you don't want to do is force yourself to have to build another tower to solve a community concern. The second thing I would say to you is that we will have other people on there, potentially. We will have the school board on there. School boards ask for repeaters, and we will accommodate them. We'll work with them. The city of Destin, we will put you on our tower. We won't charge you for our tower. You'll take care of your own equipment, but we'll support you. We'll work with you. Per our agreement with Destin water users, we're obligated, if they want some stuff on the tower, maybe a camera or Wi-Fi for their campus, we'll accommodate them. But they already, they have a water tower at 170 feet, I think, so they can take care of that. So that's issue #1. We're willing to self-restrict or leave it open. Obviously, we still could come back to you. We're okay with that. We view you as a partner. We want to work with you any way we can. But we've got 3 towers up. We've got 2 more footers ready to go, so we're going to start raising the iron on those. We're building a system. It's an integrated system. And we need your support to help us and our public safety folks here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, seeing that this is a public hearing, I will ask anyone if they want to speak on this topic to come on up. You have 3 minutes, just like before. Yes, sir. Name and address. I think you can use the office. Can they use the office? You go use the office.
Okay. David Allen, 52nd Street, Shalimar, Florida. I'm a major at the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office, so the Administration Bureau is what I oversee. This is one of the projects that I kind of oversee with my personnel. We had the opportunity, I wanted to thank all of you, because what I took from the conversations with the ones that everybody we spoke with, obviously public safety was #1 concern for you, but we understand you have bigger views than just public safety. You have to take a lot of other considerations. But just a couple things I wanted to bring up. This project started after Parkland shooting. And one of the major failures that they had in Parkland, amongst other things, was radio failures. So as far as back as 2013 to 2015, 2016, and even 2017, they knew there was an issue with the radio system, but a lot of things came into play that they weren't able to fix those radio systems. So that's what made this major push for then Sheriff Ashley at the time to make this happen. Currently, right now, one of the first things that we did, the first phase that we could make happen pretty quickly, was we worked with the county to consolidate our dispatch center. So basically what that did was we brought everybody together so we can communicate police, fire, and EMS. So now we're all in the same building, we're all on the same system. So we've seen increased efficiency when radio calls come out. So when a 911 call comes in, our dispatchers can now handle all three types of 911 calls to reduce that delay. If it's a fire call, but it's a police call comes into a fire station, they don't have to transfer that now. They can process that call. So that's one thing that we did. The second phase, some of the issues, and Mr. Coffey already kind of talked about this, so I won't go into, where we have these issues, but I did want to leave you just kind of with this final consideration, because I know you have a much broader view that you have to consider, is during Parkland, during the Uvalde situation, these communities knew there was a problem with this radio system. And until these tragedy happened, that's when it really started, the ball started moving forward. So that's just what I'm asking you to consider is, that we are starting to get ahead of it with these projects. I'm concerned about the delay, that if we do have a delay, that one of these tragedies could come to our community. We have contingencies in plan to deal with these situations as they come forward. So we're still going to provide that service should anything come to our doorstep. But I just wanted to leave that impression with you all. And again, I thank you very much for taking your time out of your day to speak with all of us. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Yes, Mike Buckingham, 510 Calhoun. Most of y'all know that I am an elected official with the Destin Fire Control District. I am a commissioner. This afternoon late, because this is very new to me, I've heard a little bit about it because I own property within the range that the tower is going, but the chief had contacted me and he asked me if I was going to the meeting tonight, and I said yes, but I'm going regarding something else. And he said, Mike, he said, please let these people know we need this tower badly. The reason the tower is needed so bad by the Destin Fire Control District is, and it's my understanding, is that if we get a fire in one of these condominiums out here, the guys that's inside can't communicate with the guys outside because it's the radio frequency, and these guys know more about what I'm talking about than I do, but the radio frequency is much stronger with this new system than the old system. The old system, if they get up in there, they can't communicate back and forth. He said it's very, 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 very well needed for the Fire Control District. So we're here to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone in the middle of the room? Sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Pat Maddox, Director of Public Safety, 90 College Boulevard East. To segue from what Major Allen was saying, some of the things that keep me up at night, and many of you who get my weather emails know I'm up all night, is the interoperability component of the slurs system that we have now. Just like Parkland was kind of the impetus for change for the law enforcement world, we had the 9/11 tragedy that brought into sharp relief the inability of different first responder agencies to be able to communicate with each other, especially across physical barriers. And that's part of what the National Incident Management System and the Incident Command System does as far as paperwork is concerned when all of these agencies come together to work together. So a radio system such as this, with the great capabilities that it has moving into the future, and again, this is building in shell space, not just for what we need now, but to be able to expand into the future for certainly the calamities that are going to befall us. Everybody worries about what's going to happen with, during hurricane season. And of course, that's one of the things that keeps me up at night as well. But we don't just have hurricane season here in this part of Florida. We have severe weather season from the day hurricane season ends until the day hurricane season begins again. If you look at what happened just north of us in Gant, Alabama today, horrible winds and damage, and we've had tornadoes in Alabama all year. We are under severe weather threat about every 36 hours. During this time of the year. So when we have a calamity that strikes us and we have to all come together with different first responding agencies from all over the region, not just the area and the counties left and right, We have to be able to speak to each other. We have to have redundancy and fiber rings built in so that when certain minimal levels of towers fail, we can still speak to each other. And this tower system is what that's going to do for us. So in order to serve everybody, the 211,000 people that are here every day, as well as the million to up to 5 million people that come here to visit us every year, this is what we need. So please help us do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, anyone else, middle of the room, going right? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion of this public hearing. And at this point, if I have any discussions from the council, or I want to entertain a motion at this time. I do have a, yeah, I mean, I got a couple, so the new tower being 155 mile an hour, if it's withstanding, and you kind of mentioned our neighbors getting hit with other hurricanes. Is there any way to fortify this even more if Michael's came in at a Category 5? If this tower is really a linchpin in our safety network, is there a way we can beef this tower up even more to, if hurricanes are only getting stronger, what else could we do to really fortify this tower if this is such a crucial need?
Obviously, you can continue to add strength to your tower systems. I will tell you that that's kind of the standard we've decided on early on in the process. We can add to it. I will tell you that we added 2 carriers to every tower, which by itself provides additional wind load and load strength. So, and in some of the other ones, other than Destin, because we didn't anticipate having many commercial carriers on here, but all the other ones on the south end, we actually went to 3, just for the purpose of beefing up the towers and making them stronger. So even though it's 155 mile an hour, that's at full load, we've actually, because we aren't going to have these things fully loaded, we don't anticipate, we actually will be stronger than the minimum, what we advertise.
Gotcha. And then yeah, you guys have anything else?
Nick Falgiatore, 1601 Gardot Avenue. I'm the county's consultant on the radio project. So whenever we build these radio towers, there's certain standards that we have to meet for the Florida Building Code, for how structurally sound the building has to be. And there's certain classifications that apply based on how important the building is and how bad it would be if it would fall down. And we build these towers to the highest classification that we can for a structure. Florida Building Code calls it a class 3/4. And the way that they determine how much wind the building must withstand is there's certain historical maps that show all of the different ranges of hurricanes and wind gusts that have been experienced over the amount of recorded history. There's certain margins above that. And this tower has to meet every tower in the system has to meet the strictest wind loading requirements available in order to get a building permit at that classification. So this tower looks at those gradient maps. They show different wind levels at different levels inland that have been experienced from any number of recent storms, and it's built to that level. And yes, as Craig pointed out, unless we have every single antenna load on that tower that is planned, which we have a lot of excess growth, we're going to exceed that requirement. Is it possible to build the tower and go well above and beyond the standard? Sure, you could build this thing to make it as beefy and expensive as you want and build it to higher levels. It's just generally within this market not something practiced because the codes already go very far to make sure that the structure is very secure.
And then if this tower were to go down when a Cat 5 comes through, what would happen? You say there's redundancies with other towers. Would we still have any kind of coverage in this area?
Absolutely. So the way the system works is all of the sites work together and transmit at the same time. So if you lose one location, that location is built because it provides an enhanced level of in-building coverage within the area around it, which is why we have it right here in West Destin, because that's where we have the largest concentration of dense buildings in the area. If that tower were to collapse or become compromised in the storm, we have surrounding sites in Fort Walton and across the bay in numerous locations. We'd have overlapping coverage from those areas to at least support outdoor operations, users where they can operate on a portable, some level of in-building, but that's mainly what we would lose is that dense in-building penetration. And then there's other means in that area to supplement communications, deployables, other ways that we can restore communications in short order for the impacted area.
All right, thank you so much. Councilman Bagby.
Yeah. So I think everybody up here supports public safety. I think everybody, if this were in my neighborhood, I would say no, because there are other ways to crack this nut other than one tall tower. You can do a couple where they're overlapping. There's redundancy. There are other means to achieve the objective that they're trying. I have a question. To the top of the antennas, it's 223 feet. Am I reading the diagram correctly? Okay, I just want to make sure. So it's not a 200-foot tower. It's 223 feet to the tip top. I think it's 200 probably to the top of the base. The antennas, the towers aren't what fail in a storm like that. Typically, it's everything that's hung on that tower that fails, that gets ripped off. For all those dish antennas, all those other little, I call them Christmas tree lights, but all the little baubles typically are what goes first. My thing is, the reason we have the 200-foot height limit is we learned eons ago that the main thing at Eglin is not the air operations. I know that's the sexy and that's the loud thing, and that's the thing everybody knows about, but the main thing at Eglin is the testing, that Gulf Coast Test and Training Range, and the sensors and arrays and everything that they have to track telemetry, hypersonics, all the other stuff that's going on. That is what Eglin is about. It's not the F-35, that everybody loves the sound of freedom, and all this other stuff that we think Eglin is about. That's not what it's really about. And that's why I reached out to the test wing, to the chief civilian there to say, hey, because there had been in the past concerns with some buildings that we had approved eons ago that it would inhibit their capabilities. And like I said, I have no brook with the public safety. I am all in on the public safety, but there are other ways to solve this. And I'm not even saying it impacts Eglin's mission. I've reached out to them because I told the staff, here's my number one concern. How does it impact Eglin's mission? I think they conveyed that to the county staff, but there was some miscommunication. They thought I was talking about the FAA, air operations. Well, we got the airspace manager. I'm not worried about the airspace. I understand the airspace. I understand why you wouldn't put a 223-foot tower right next to a runway at Destin Airport or next to any runway. That's not my concern. And so my concern is until I hear back from Sally or General Garrity at the 96th Test Wing, I can't support this. What I would like to do is to table this to the next meeting so that we can get the answers, which is 2 weeks, so we can get the answers from Eglin. And their answer may be, yes, we all looked at it, all our scientists looked at it, it's not a problem, and we can come back. But right now, I don't have the answers to the questions I asked the staff over a week ago, and then I asked last week in my briefing, or Monday. When did we have our meeting? I don't even remember. Friday? Thursday. It's been a lot going on in the world here. But, so I will make a motion to table, and, I understand y'all might not be on board with that. I know the county staff probably isn't on board but the other thing I would say is every time I've done something on short notice, we ended up doing the wrong thing. And I kind of feel like Kevin did. I don't even remember what the issue was, where something came on the agenda and it was like, wait, we've only known about this for 2 weeks. Can't we talk about this? And I'm happy that y'all were talking to the staff a year ago or 6 months ago or however long ago it was. I don't care. It could be 5 years ago. It didn't come before us till last week and a half ago. Okay?
All right.
So that's my motion.
I'll second.
Motion is second.
Just to clarify, Jim, it's a motion to continue to the next council meeting? Date certain,
I'm sorry,
time
continue
and
to
date
the next
certain.
meeting. Yeah.
All right. I gotta go. Robert's rules, I have to acknowledge the table. So any discussions on this? Call the vote. Can we discuss? Are we allowed to discuss them?
It's just a motion to continue, so technically you can. It's not a motion to table. Yeah.
Put back in then. I'm sorry. I thought we had honored the table and pushed through that.
Just clarify, it's not a motion to table, it's a motion to continue.
Motion to
a time
continue.
and
Okay,
date certain.
sorry about that. All right. No, I thought that's what I heard. I heard a table in there. No, I don't want to. No, they're all here. I want to have the conversation. All right. Let's go back to Councilman Destin, and if I've cleared you, just throw your name back up. I'm sorry about that.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Coffey, you had spoken about voluntarily restricting the number of vendors that you have on the tower, and I've just learned that the more vendors we put on there, probably the more susceptible it is to problems with the wind, so that would probably be a good thing. I spoke to the land use attorney about the issue earlier, and I'm not sure that we have the authority to do that, although if it's an agreement between the county and the city. Land use attorney, do you have an opinion on whether we can even do that?
What I was referring to when we talked earlier was the federal law.
Right.
So the Telecommunications Act of 96 has a section 704, and that prohibits discrimination between cellular carriers and prohibits us from prohibiting that once the tower's up. So that's what I was referring to.
So you think we could enter into some kind of restriction with the county on vendors going onto this tower? If it's an agreement, another interlocal agreement, how about, between two government entities?
Well, I think we might have some federal law issues, but I haven't delved into it for a separate agreement. I would have some concerns. I don't know if the county has spoken with the county attorney on that yet, but I'd be concerned about section 704.
Mr. Coffey, did you speak to the county attorney, or are they under the opinion that we could even enter into an agreement like that?
So if I was, the applicant that's before you today is the county. It's not Mr. Herbert or whoever they
Right.
listed as the tower builder. He's our contractor. Normally, if I were US Cellular in front of you or something like that, you would have problems even on your approval process that we're here tonight. But because we're the county, we're okay with that. I've told you that verbally. We'll commit to that. If you need us to put that in writing or some kind of binding document, we'd be happy to do that. But I would encourage you, like I said in my presentation, to leave the door open for your future approval should you choose to do that in the future.
Thank you. I think that kind of answers the question. We can almost do it, maybe.
Yeah.
And I understand Mr. Bagby's desire to get information from the department over Eglin that does that testing, because that is a very important integral part of what they do. I also am somewhat reluctant to put the county off for 2 weeks. I don't know if that's going to be absolutely a knife into the heart of the beast. I hope not. So.
You good?
I was
Waiting on Craig.
waiting on Craig to tell us if he has an opinion about that.
Ideally, we'd like your approval tonight. We've been at this. This was publicly noticed almost 6 months ago. It was public. Everyone was put on notice. I know some of you have been approached and said, well, the council didn't know about this tower. Or the council, per your code, doesn't know about the tower unless it's chosen. And we had one person complain. Well, maybe two, count the staff member. They complained. And so that it was decision to make it transparent and put before you. Now, I appreciate Eglin and the missiles, but I guarantee you, we're building 11 towers. AT&T, Verizon's building towers all over this county. There are towers all over Fort Walton Beach, all over Niceville, all over Crestview, all over, just drive around. This tower will not affect Eglin's mission. If they're firing missiles 200 foot level, we probably have some other problems. We followed the rules. We followed your rules. We followed the FAA's rules, the FCC's rules. We've worked with Eglin. We've met with them over and over again. I don't have time to go with 10 different entities at Eglin. We did the process we were supposed to do. we've got to build this system. Every delay adds months to our process. We've got to get these clearances and get these towers going. We are to the finish line at the Destin Tower. That's where we're at, folks. And I don't mean to, it's a serious matter. I know you heard about this, but it doesn't get serious until it gets serious. And right now, we've got some breathing time. We got time to do it right. And we're willing to forego other carriers. We're willing to work with you, and we've tried to work with you all the way. We'd ask for your support to help us get through this public safety issue.
Councilman Destin, I appreciate you bringing up that, because after hearing our land use attorney, it sounds like the helicopter's at the airport all over again. Councilman Schmidt. Did you say, Mayor? Oh. Sorry about that. The first thing.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Mayor. I was looking at the considered tower locations, and I see that there were several within the city's limit, city areas, but they were not going to meet the coverage requirements, would need a second tower. And what is the cost, Craig, if you had to do 2 towers to come down on the height, and you had 2 towers in the city of Destin on city property, where we'd be part of the beneficiary on monies that AT&T would be paying, to be part of the city? Can you give us that insight?
You might help throw me some costs, but it's a little over $1 million to $1.5 million per tower site for the tower and the equipment.
Gotcha.
And then
No matter how tall it is?
You save a little bit on the steel, but the cost is not really in the steel. It's all the engineering and approvals and the additional. Now we got to get an FCC license again for another tower. Each tower is independently licensed. On top of that, then you add a whole other maintenance regimen, and you add all the software costs. So we're going to pay $500,000 to $750,000 to maintain the towers we have. Every tower we add is going to be another $50,000 to $100,000 a year to maintain and keep up and operating and keep the licensing and stuff in place. And you'll gain very minimal benefit. And I'd ask you to think about towers you've seen. You go, that's a 150-foot tower, or that's a 200-foot tower. Once it gets a certain height, you really don't know unless you can guess those things. So, are you gonna be able to give us a site and do it in a timely manner? We still got a year process almost, and are we gonna stand in front of a crowd of 200 that's closer to their house that they don't like the way it looks because it's got some stuff around it? That's the real challenge for you, because is it better to rip that Band-Aid off with 1 or 2? Granted, they'll be a little smaller. We really tried to build smaller. I mean, that was our real goal, because we know, we really tried. That was our goal the whole time. And unfortunately, we just couldn't find a site, because it would have been free site for us. We had to work with Destin Water users and work with them.
Now, Councilman Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the map, Mr. Coffey, with the green circles and then the red circles, it seems like it has a center point in that airport area. Why is that the center point? Is that a correct question? I have a
now you
number
got to
of
say your
questions.
name and address as well.
Christina Girardi, 4141 Commons Drive West, Destin, Florida.
Williams Communications.
Yes, Williams Communications. So we are the vendor that were awarded the contract with the county. So we have MCP that did the assessment and they put out the ITN. We're the ones that respond to ITN with a solution, and we were selected. For our solution, our engineers go and look in all the different areas in the county and where to position these towers in order to be able to meet the requirements of the RFP. The RFP had very stringent requirements. That was the 30 dB in building coverage, mainly for Destin area. The airport location, along with the location that we had at the EOC, at the RFP process, when we come in with a solution, we look at what we understand as possible to be built. We knew that we already had a EOC at the college, so we were planning to put a tower there. We knew that we already had a monopole at the Fort Walton Beach PD, so we knew that that was a likable location. And then we had to figure out one here. So we have placed towers near airports before. Flight plans have to be modified, but so be it. Because that height over there will be much lower than any other else, that was the location during the RFP process that we chose because it would augment the coverage coming from Niceville and augment the coverage coming from the Fort Walton Beach PD. So that's why the area as a circle was the ideal location to not have to move anything around and still meet that. At that point, if we're at the airport, we'll be at 98.5. So instead of the 97 point whatever, we'll be like even close to 99, I think. It was close to 99 actually. So if you're over there, we had a 99% penetration on the area that was required.
So with all the relationships and all the experience and all the ownership that you guys have with the airports in this area that Mr. Coffey talked about, did y'all not think that there was going to be a problem to put a tower on your own property right there? Why did you start at that point? If you know about the glide distance and all that, why did we start at a point that never was going to happen?
It's not never, it's not never, because.
Sounds like it.
No. If you think about the planes, when they entering, they have.
So it can happen on the airport property in Destin?
Yes, it can. Not, well, Mr. Tracy had reservations about putting anywhere in there. So
Say that
that's
again,
what
I'm sorry.
Mr. Tracy Stage,
Mm-hmm.
the airport director, he was the one that had concerns about placing the tower next to we were thinking about putting next to the control tower,
Mhm.
where there is already a tower.
Right.
Make kind of sense. But he had reservations about it, and we respect the airport owner's reservation. But have we done that before? Yes. we
So
have.
what are the concerns that Mr. Tracy has? Because I thought there was concerns from the FAA and Eglin and everybody else, so I'm a little confused now.
Yeah, I would talk about glide paths, just like you were talking about. So there was locations we looked at the airport. We own the green splotch that you see up there, the big green area. And to get away from those glide paths, to get the height we needed, we were going to have to push up right against those residential areas over there. And that's kind of where we didn't want to go. We had wetland issues, you had flooding issues, you had a bunch of different issues there that just wouldn't work.
So we could put a tower there in your
I don't
green
know that
circle,
I
but
don't-
because Mr. Tracy's stage had some issues with it, we decided not to? I mean, that's kind of what I heard.
That's not what I said.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you very much. And the next question is, it says on your chart, 3950 Commons Drive, the city of Destin did not approve tower in this location. Who didn't approve that location? Because this is our first time we've had this discussion.
This was a staff meeting that we came explaining what we were doing for the project and the possible locations that we were considering. And we brought up the recreation complex. And at that point in time, the folks, we have Mr. Weber, I think was back on the original, they just said, no, we are over there, we don't.
Is there any
prefer-
reason why our staff said no to that location? Lance, any reason?
I learned about it the same time you did.
So-
So the property at the sports center is actually owned by Destin Water Users, so.
Oh, it is on, okay.
So you learned about it when I did a few days ago? Okay. Why does, let's see, 14 Industrial Park, it says that the height did not meet the system coverage requirements, would need a second tower, and East Destin, 170-foot water tank. So I assume that that address is where the 170-foot water tank is? And because we can't, I know you said we can't lift a water tank, and I fully understand the reasons about lifting a water tank, but we can't add to the top of a water tank? Is that what that means?
We can we go back to the slides of adding to structures and then adding to, first, let's go back to adding to structures. So obviously, we do not own the tank.
You don't own the property that you're under lease with either.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. But I will tell you that the hurricane that's happened in Mexico Beach, their water tank went down. I will tell you that the county has water tanks all over the county. We did not use one water tank of ours. Why? Our tanks are 170 feet or higher because they don't work. They'll rip off the top. You've heard Mr. Bagby, and there's some truth in what he's saying, is that those attachments do rip off. Now, you can build it structurally. You can build a whole other thing on top there, but The existing towers, of course, weren't designed as to handle this thing. I know the water tanks wouldn't be designed as well. All those things, the space available, the cost to reinforce the tower would be exorbitant. Depending on the space, you need space on the ground for the generator, for the tank, for all the equipment. You have an ongoing lease expense, which is more costly to the taxpayers. We're concerned about that. Lack of control over lease increase. So every time we want to add an additional thing, we've got to recalculate the structural capability of the thing. Our towers are designed for 50% growth of our emergency communication system. Lack of control of who accesses. So if we build a tower and we build a compound, we have a secure site. We control who goes in and out of that site. If it's a water tank, short of being a county water tank, we don't control that site. I will tell you in Florosa, we're building a tower right next to the tank, just because it doesn't work. Every time, typically on a water tank, every time we've had a antenna on there, we've got to take those antenna off and disable that site. It's not good for emergency communication systems.
Right. Okay.
So
that answers the question about the water tank.
okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
Did y'all look at 908 Airport Road?
I don't know if that addresses it on that table.
It's not. It's
Okay.
the city of Destin's property. It's kind of right stone's throw from that property.
I can't tell you we looked at every single property.
Did y'all have in your meetings discussion with the county 908 Airport Road, our city-owned property? Who met with the county during all these discussions? I'm just curious.
Well, there was an initial meeting at the time.
One second.
sorry.
Lance, who met with the county during all these meetings? Who? Lewis.
So as far as any planning division meetings and or community development division meetings, we really got involved when the variance package was submitted. Before that, I'm not aware
But all
of
these
any.
negotiations that y'all are referring to and like discussions with our staff, you didn't meet with the city manager or deputy city manager?
We actually met with Webb and Lewis at the initial meeting, and then I don't know if there was
So
someone
Webb,
else
you
there.
did meet with them?
That was again, it was a long time ago. It was an initial meeting, hey, we're building a tower system, maybe this, but
Okay.
they weren't throwing out, hey, locate
Right.
here or locate there. It wasn't
Okay.
that kind of discussion. It was.
Look, I told you all on the phone call, public safety is very important, and I respect all the people in here with badges and the dedication to that job. I respect them all, and that's extremely important. My issue are the questions that I've been raising just now. That unfortunately, I'm shocked that our city manager is having the answers he's saying. I'm shocked that meetings that took place didn't take place. I'm shocked that we're looking at an option, that we're not looking at an option, that Mr. Tracy Stage has an issue with something, that we're told the airport had an issue. It's just, my issue is that it's not a transparent situation where you talk about we advertised it at a public variance, and this is a staff thing, and my issue with our staff, that we use Northwest Florida Daily News to do public advertisements, okay? So I'm not gonna take a public notice in the Northwest Florida Daily News about this and just say, well, the city didn't show up. We started building a 223-foot tower on Main Street. I guarantee they're going to be calling whoever's on this dais at that time and saying, what the heck happened? And I have called the citizens. I've called the business owners. I've called the people around there. I've talked to other people. I haven't heard anybody that's interested in this. So I've been trying to make notice to our constituents as much as I can, considering that we just found this out just recently. And you said, Mr. Coffey, that we have time to do it right. That was your words, that we have time to do this right. And so I would hopefully ask that you respect the original motion to take 2 more weeks and take that time. Because if we have time to do the right thing, then we should be able to do 2 more weeks before a lifelong 220-something foot tower comes in the city of Destin and the town center CRA. That's all I got.
All right, Councilman Destin, I pushed you off there.
Just one more question in an attempt to satisfy at least some of the people here. We have the ability to approve it contingent upon not receiving adverse comments from Eglin in 2 weeks or the next meeting. Can we even do that? And one of you attorney folks.
That would be in the discretion of the city council. I would say you could do that if the council wants to do that.
Okay, so you think we can do that?
Yes.
Motion makers, is that even something you want to consider?
You know, I would have considered it right up until Mr. Schmidt's questions. I'll be honest with you. And I like Tracy, don't get me wrong, he does a great job. But if that's the reason it's not going out at the airport, I'm like you. I thought it was the FAA, I thought it was Eglin, I thought it was all the airspace gurus, and now I'm kind of finding out, well, maybe that's not what it was, and that there are other places. So I'll be honest with you, 10 minutes ago, I would have jumped on that, but I'm going to stick with my motion right now.
Okay, well, the only comment I would say, and I agree exactly what you're saying, and I'm quite worried about those revelations also. But if we go down that path, it's going to be a lot more than 2 weeks. And the other thing is, we're holding the county accountable for what obviously looked like there were some balls dropped here. And I'm not sure that is fair either. So, if I knew that we could get all of these issues resolved in the 2 weeks and not delay their system, then I would support the motion.
Yeah, my thing, quite honestly, if there were 400 people out here that live on Main Street, I mean, we got people that live on Main Street, and she's not jumping up and down going, no, you're not putting it there. So I assume, now, Mr. Schmidt may be right. They may, not a single one of them might know about it, but I think there is some awareness in the community about the tower now. I probably wouldn't. They're not here. Yeah, they're not here. So that tells me that's not an issue. I have one issue. You know, would I like to see it at the airport? Yes, because then maybe my house would get coverage at the requisite level. But just throwing that out there. But I'm not, in 2 weeks, if Eglin if the 96 test wing has said, nope, all our arrays, everything we have out in the Gulf, everything we have over in Eglin, and just for future use, don't use Niceville or Crestview or any of those others, because you know what? They're not shooting those hypersonic missiles over them, okay? And they don't have to track that. But my only issue is I want to know that Eglin, not the FAA, Eglin is fully on board. All this other stuff, nobody's jumping up and down. So would I like to see it at the airport? Yes, but I'm not going to hold it up in 2 weeks based on, gee, there's a better location. I will hold it up tonight if I can, because I need to be convinced that Eglin is good with that.
Councilman King?
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I have a hard time with, I was going to support this for the county this evening. You know, and I have a hard time. This Eglin Air Force Base is the largest Air Force base in the world. The majority of it is in Okaloosa County. I have a hard time believing that we're going to do this outside of Eglin's recommendation and the county be okay with that. That's just my perspective, and I'm sure Mr. Coffey and his constituents would agree. I've been a proponent for public safety since the day I got here. That was one of the reasons why I ran for this seat. It's obviously a huge need. I think it's something that we need. I also live right off of Main Street. I've lived within close proximity of Main Street the majority of my life. It doesn't bother me one bit. You know, if you open the door for, we all want to say 200 people, but there was 36 people with pickleball paddles in their hands, and they took up a lot of this room. Yeah. You know, we're a town of 14,000 people. I have a really hard time believing that the majority of them are going to side with, that the majority of them aren't going to side with this. So I am in full support of this tonight. You know, if we want to, I don't like the idea of tabling it, and I think if Eglin's got a problem with it, I think they would let us know before this ever came to fruition.
All right, Councilman Guile.
Thank you all for your presentation. One thing I'd like to note is I'm very proud of Kevin over there. He did extremely detailed research. I think that was amazing. I'm very happy to see that. But I do have a question. One thing that Councilman Bagby's asking is if we revote on this in 2 weeks, is there a deadline on which you have to have an answer one way or another that restricts this tower production or erection?
We don't have all the time. We've taken the time to do it right, I will say that. We don't have all the time, but we do not have a hard and fast deadline that the world is going to end tomorrow. But we've delayed this system a year just trying to get all the sites, trying to get all the frequencies, trying to get all the clearances we need. Yeah, and as far as Eglin, we don't want to do anything to affect Eglins. I don't know what that criteria would look like, though. Is it somebody saying I got a problem with it, or is it, hey, we fire at 200 things, 200 feet, or is there condos that we're going to lower to meet those standards of Eglin? Because there's condos just as you go towards the water in between. So if it's going to hit this tower, it's going to hit those condos. I'm getting off track, but we can wait. I'd ask you not to delay because we've delayed so long. I wish we were already building now after the variance. But we're at your mercy. We're here to work with you, always. That's number one, always.
One thing I will mention is we have emergency response here. We have officers here. We have a citizen that's part of a commission that stated that the fire department is begging us for it. And we have people that we're responsible for. I understand what Kevin's saying about the notice. Maybe it wasn't put out there properly, but again, there is an agenda. Their citizens should be here. Some citizens voiced concerns to me just in passing by. I told them to be here if they had a concern. They didn't feel it was important enough to show up. I don't think I would be in support in delaying it personally. I think we just need to move forward and think about the health, safety, public welfare. I realize potentially looking at another site would potentially give taxpayer money. If we don't run into problems or headaches, it could put money in the bottom line for us at some point. But that's not a certainty. It's not a guarantee. And for me, I'm more apt to move forward and just get this moving so that we can take care of our public and the people that risk their lives every day to make sure that we're safe.
My last question is, if our land use attorney's assumptions are correct and the federal preemption comes in, are we able to use that money from those carriers for more public service and more public safety? Because I know we have an issue with our fire department where we need more money. Everyone's rates are going up. Y'all did a great job with your Okaloosa Island Fire Department. Walton County always is the cream of the crop. If these tower providers have the right to come on here, can we put in some kind of preliminary agreement that this money then gets put into Destin Public Safety?
I can tell you, you'd have my word tonight, and here's the reality of it. We're going to spend the tower construction and buying all these radios. I mean, Destin Fire alone, we're probably spending, I would guess, $300,000 to $500,000 just giving them radios. We are going to continue to spend money on the public safety system. Every year, it's going to be $500,000 to $750,000. Plus, we have to maintain all these sites, the generators, and all that kind of stuff. So any revenue we get is going to be plowed back into that system to offset that. And then if for some reason, if we were able to make, and we don't have the first carrier, we don't have the first contract, first discussion on any of our towers. So we do not have that. We just have planned for the future. But if we get any of that money, it's going right back into the system and supporting, and we aren't charging any of these first responding agencies, not only today and for these radios, we aren't going to be charging them for use of the system. And a lot of counties do that, but that is not the plan for us. We're going to bear all the costs ourselves.
Mike, does the fire department have a cost per year for these radios? Is this something new that's going to be offset on your guys' budget for these radio systems? If the county's taking over the expense of future radio systems, is that something that's in your guys' budget now?
It'll definitely save us money.
Okay.
which is a plus for us, yes.
Okay.
It would
Most
not,
definitely. Yes,
it would
ma'am.
not be all future, we're going to buy them all the radios
I
they
heard
have
him say
now
he's
and
buying
extra, but not all future radios. We don't
Okay.
be buying
Well, I
them.
know that, I'm sure these carriers are about a 30-year.
You're doing a good job.
I know the carriers are probably under a 30-year contract,
But
so
the-
I'm
the
trying to think
system
of how these
itself
towers
is-
will be.
Yeah, the system itself is what we'll be maintaining. And then when it needs a refresh, so we have money set aside for refreshes, because you'll have to upgrade that technology. After 15 or 20 years, you'll probably need a new system, or it'll be out end-of-life system. And that's why we built the system for 50 to 100 years, so that we can replace different type of technology in the future with the same towers. We don't have to build new towers, we just go up and change that. But the base system is what we're going to continue to maintain.
Gotcha. And basically comes down to whoever owns the land is, I guess, guaranteed or has the ability to then collect the funds. Would this,
No,
or is it
this-
your tower?
these
it's
would go
your
to the
funds?
county, correct. These-
Okay, even if it was under city land?
That's correct. We've made provisions. It doesn't matter who owns the land. We've made provisions, and all the people that have donated sites have given us the ability to add additional carriers on there. And
Okay.
it's all going to go towards offsetting property taxes.
Okay.
Who's going to pay for the maintenance of the system otherwise?
Okay, Councilman Bagby.
Yeah, two quick points. The two-tower concept, lease buy, it doesn't have to be a tower. That we kind of focus and we've kind of stuck on it's got to be a tower, we've got antennas on the old Destin Log Building. We've got antennas all over this town. And so when you do that, yes, there is a lease cost, an ongoing lease cost, but it takes you a long time to lease at $30,000 a year to get up to the $1 million construction cost of the thing. And then I guess the final point that I would make, I just want to make sure I'm clear. We're too far down the road to probably move it to the airport, but I do want somebody to explain to me how that decision, who decided that it couldn't be or shouldn't be, or we didn't want it at the airport. We've already got the FAA permit and all that. We're kind of stuck with what we have, because then I agree, it would delay it a year just to go back through the FAA permitting process and all that other stuff, and to re-engineer the site over at the airport. I'm not about that, but I do want somebody to explain that to me. But more than anything, I want Eglin to give their blessing before we do this.
All right, well, I see
Mayor?
no other, yep.
Go
ahead.
I'm going to offer a substitute motion that the tower be approved contingent upon receiving no adverse communications from Eglin Air Force Base
Second.
before our next meeting.
Third. Okay. All right, we got a vote.
I just want
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Here is the email that both Craig and I got.
Mike.
Here's the email that Craig and I both got from Sally this morning, when she asked him, can someone please send me a map? Now, this is the number 2 person in the 96 test wing, okay? Can someone please send me a map on the location? I am not aware of this project. Thanks. Period. So, obviously, I'm not going to support this, but I understand the reason for making it. Thanks.
All right, I got 2 votes in. Ayes have it, so moved. Mike?
In email contact with. Question. I have a question. So basically, we didn't approve it for the next 2 weeks.
Correct, we lost.
On any negative factor.
Right, unless we get so it's not approved for the next 2 weeks.
There's a contingency.
Right. Unless we hear from General Garrity or Sally that says, yep, it's good with us. All right, I just want to make sure.
Yep.
Will this item be brought back to the meeting? How does that all work based upon that decision? I'd like to hear the process.
I would say, first off, it's very unusual to have a contingent approval. I think And Kim, you correct
I
me
think
if I'm wrong.
that
Go ahead.
Councilmember Bagby made it pretty clear what he wanted, a letter from, he said the exact name. If we get the letter, it's approved and it doesn't come back. If we don't get the letter, it sounds like it's coming back. Am I wrong on that, Councilmember Bagby? Okay, I thought it was simple.
Yeah, I thought it was.
And then one last question on that. So we didn't make any contingencies or provisions on the carrier providers, correct?
You did not.
We did not.
Okay.
You
Just
say
wanna
it's
put
coming
that out there
back.
for the record.
If you get a letter, it's not approved, right?
Yet.
If it does not get the letter that Councilmember Bagby referred to from the specific individuals he referred to, then I think it would come back because it would not be approved.
Well, then I guess I need clarification. I was under the understanding, move forward and start moving forward with the process, but if we get a letter, we stop. That's the way it seemed like it was presented in
If
the
you all
amendment.
are not clear on it, then I think you should discuss it further, probably. My understanding, and
Can we read Dewey's motion back, Ray, and see exactly what was said?
Not out of the woods yet. Or just getting a point of clarification on the motion.
Okay, the motion is to continue to the next council meeting, which is on April 17th, contingent
No,
upon
it
not,
was Dewey's motion was what.
Substitute.
right, contingent upon not receiving adverse comments from Eglin.
The motion was to approve it contingent upon not receiving adverse from Eglin, any adverse opinions, any opposition.
I thought Councilmember Bagby specifically mentioned the name of the individual he was waiting.
Sally or General Gary?
The number 2 person in that test division named Sally, could you repeat her?
Curran, Curran.
And I have no problem with those two individuals being specifically referenced.
Okay, so they're not allowed to start moving forward till we find out that letter. So I don't see how it's any different than Jim Bagby's motion.
If
I
they
don't
give
see how
us
the
an all clear.
amendment's different.
We could get the email tomorrow.
If they do not send us any adverse reaction letters, then it goes forward without any other action of the council.
They don't come back to us.
So there's a lot of different conversations going on in my ear. I can't really hear, unfortunately. But if we get a letter from these people that says, I do not like this cell tower, can somebody, one of our attorneys or somebody tell us, what does that mean based on this motion that was just made?
I believe it would come back to you.
Come back to be voted on again as a public hearing?
Yes, because your motion would not have come to fruition for
Okay.
approval. Your condition would not
Thank
have
you
been
for
met.
the legal side. I appreciate it.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
all.
All right, so there you have it. All right, moving on to public hearing number 2.
You want to move right into it, Bobby?
Yeah, what time is it? It's only 8. Yeah, Bagby already tinkled. Yeah, let's keep on going.
All right. All right, second QJ. We have Ed Stanford of Core Engineering and Consulting, Inc., on behalf of Heron's Nest LLC, requesting approval of a minor deviation to a minor development order. Project scope includes the construction of a new commercial dock that houses 25 slips plus 1 transient slip for a total of 26 slips, located at 105 and 109 Calhoun Avenue. Again, starting with Kevin, just see if there's been any ex parte communications.
No, nothing at all. Well, besides the previous meeting and things that will not affect my decision.
None.
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 I haven't had any really detailed conversations with anybody. I don't think I would be biased on this issue at all.
None.
Right, and Mike, I know you're here for this project, and I don't, are you guys here to testify tonight? Yeah, go ahead and stand and raise your right hand. Steve, any other member of staff, any member of the public that wants to testify? Do you swear affirm testimony you're about to provide is the truth? All right, thank you, thank you. Kim, I'll go to staff first if you want and say anything. If not, we'll let Mike present.
No, staff is available for questions, so we'll just let the applicant make his presentation. I'll just enter the staff report into the record as City's Exhibit A.
Mike, you don't have any objection to that, do you?
I'm sorry?
You don't have any objection to the staff report entering into the record?
No, sir.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
I guess we're here tonight after about a year's worth of back and forth, and we're here tonight with agreeing with their recommendations, and hopefully y'all are going to move forward and put this project away so we can move on to something else. And I don't need to borrow any money from y'all, even though it's going to be public use, but it'd be nice if I could get money from y'all tonight. You've been giving some money away, but I'm good. I'm fine. Thank you. Any questions?
Councilman Guile.
Mike, how are you today, sir?
Yes, sir.
I've got a request, if it's okay, and I realize that some of this may be redundant, but I feel like based off how many docs are coming up to this council in the past month or two, couple months, that I feel like I need to ask this. Do you have any objections that if we put in the DO a statement that says there can only be one boat per slip?
No, sir, that's our plans.
Okay. But is it okay if we have it actually physically written in there?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Does a dinghy count?
Then based off that stipulation, I would move.
Hold on. I can't do a motion yet. Yep. So at this point, it is open floor for the public comments. Do I hear anyone here willing to speak on this topic? Yes, sir.
I think one of the main concerns when the original project was introduced was A, parking for the facility, for the dockage and the boats that would be docked there. B is what type of boats would be docked there. So I think the request, and of course, the land use attorney said it's allowable, is I think having one boat per slip will answer or satisfy a lot of people's concerns.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll close the public comments and entertain a motion at this time.
I would like to make the motion that we approve the development order for the dock based off the written stipulation in the DO.
Do you want to add your contingency in there?
Yeah, that's the contingency.
Okay.
That
Just
there's
for
one-
clarification, we're going to write it as one vessel per slip, if that's okay.
One vessel per slip.
Mhm.
Right, do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll wait for Mr. Gates to get off the phone.
He more important than our citizens?
Evidently. I mean, I was going to court-martial them and just, get them to do something today. Yeah.
Go get him. We're voting, come on.
Yeah.
No kidding.
We can. I got to court-martial you. Yeah. Ayes have it, so moved. Congratulations. All right, that is the end of our public hearings, and we will go on to the council comments and presentations. Councilman Sweetser. Don't see Councilman Sweetser. Councilman Guile.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody know if Councilman Sweetser's okay? I did hear that he was going to be at this meeting. He's
He
not.
said he was coming, but then I think he had physical therapy and it kind of made him not feel as well, so he canceled.
But he's okay.
He's okay, he had surgery.
Okay.
Tell him we hope he can be at the next meeting. We really need him.
He's probably watching right now.
I was just kidding.
All right. So, one thing I'd like to bring up, since we're handing out $400,000 for pickleball, is that, well, not yet, but we have a May budget workshop. And I would like to make sure that during this May budget workshop, Lance, are you listening to me, sir? That we consider a few things. One, that we get the justifications before council to help Jeff with that lobbyist, a possible lobbyist. I know that he's mentioned at some point that Panama City Beach has a lobbyist. They've had a 3-time return on investment plus from their lobbyist. There might be a chance we can piggyback. I would like to make sure that all the justifications are followed through and presented to us so that we can review that information. I would like to make sure that we talk to Tamara about a potential assistant, and she has the justifications in place. Help her find the way to present that in a possible way. I know that we have Mike Burgess that has 2 positions that are currently approved but not filled. One of those have been empty for approximately 3 years. So some type of method in which we're directing or showing that we're active in trying to fill that position, or possible things that we can do to help him fill those positions. Lisa Firth already has 2 approved, just making sure that everything's status quo on that. We can move forward. The IT director, a status on where we are with this IT director and what we need to do to make sure that we can get the proper advertising for these positions. Lewis, I'm aware that there's 3 positions or 2 positions that are currently open, and we might be looking at an engineering tech that's additionally needed. And Jamie's good to go. Congratulations, Jamie. But I would like to make sure that we can somewhat direct or have a clear-cut plan, because I'll be honest, I thought that's what the visioning session was going to be about, and I was extremely disappointed that the visioning session didn't cover everything that I felt, or that a lot of people expressed that it was supposed to cover, or what I believed it was supposed to cover. I felt like maybe we should have had some of these things covered there, and it may be redundant that I'm asking these things, but again, I just feel like there was a missed opportunity in February, and I would like to make sure that basically we get these justifications before us so that we can fully understand and make sure that they are supported in presenting it to us the right way. So I don't know if that's a motion or just a plea or what needs to happen there, but that was my discussion on the staff needs, staff pay.
I'm not seeing any objection by the council. I will make sure that is a topic on the agenda for the May workshop, and I will make sure that our senior level directors and managers know the process for asking for new employees. And I've already been in contact with Jamie as far as ramping up some different avenues to try to fill some of these long-term vacancies that we've had.
Thank you very much, sir. I truly appreciate that. The very next section I have is kind of a public announcement, if anything. It's a public service announcement. I have a little PowerPoint, if you all can be patient with me. If we need to take a slight break, restroom break, I guess it would be amazing, because some of us are old, and the Depends are just not working like they used to, I guess. Can we take a slight break before we start this? All right, give me the little clicker. I need a clicker. Should I stand somewhere else? I don't know what the protocol, I've never done. Here we go. Oh, wow, it would be great if it came with instructions. I guess the center is the...
I think right and left.
Let's go. Oh, you didn't activate it? Am I pointing it the wrong dang way? Here, let's try this. Oh, there we go. So one thing we need to talk about, in my opinion, is licensed contracting. I did talk to Noelle Bell, and we do have a May safety awareness, and she felt this would be good. In discussions, this would be a good pairing. So as a PSA, I would like to talk a little bit about what a licensed contractor is. In the state of Florida, you have a state certified licensed contractor, which the state of Florida determines meets all the requirements to operate a license under that realm. They can operate in the entire state of Florida. That license permits them to work anywhere in the state of Florida. You additionally have a registered contractor. A registered is registered to that county or any county that reciprocates to perform that said work. They are only allowed to operate in that county unless there's reciprocity. So just because they're a registered contractor does not mean they're allowed to work in Okaloosa County. They have to be registered in Okaloosa County or have reciprocity. And I'm going to go through this fairly fast because in my mind, this is all recorded on YouTube. So if any citizen wants to go back and review it, now they have the ability to do so. So if it seems like I'm going fairly quickly, it's because I know that you actually can go back and review it. So how do we verify a licensed contractor? We can go to myfloridalicense.com. There's going to be a website that pops up. Right there, you can verify a license. That little yellow key, click it. It's going to begin a search page. On that search page, whatever information you have or how you want to search for them, enter it, press search. It's going to take you to another page where you populate any information you potentially have on this contractor. Once you populate that area, begin your search. According to Florida statute, so if they don't show up on that search, they're not a licensed contractor and they're not allowed to operate in any contracting field. According to Florida statute, if somebody is caught doing unlicensed contracting, the very first offense is a third-degree misdemeanor. The second or multiple offenses after each one is considered a first-degree misdemeanor. If that person claims to be doing contracting in a state of emergency, it's now a felony if they are unlicensed. The problem with unlicensed contracting, geez, I can't even see that far. I'm telling you, I wish I'd have had a copy of my PowerPoint up here. Yeah, they cannot apply for a permit. Well, let me step up here. I'm just going to read right here. Insurance companies will not permit or allow unpermitted or unlicensed contracting. Your insurance company will require some form of remediation. Homeowner contracts an unlicensed contractor. So if a homeowner contracts an unlicensed contractor, if they hire them and they sell that home, after that work is performed, if that buyer buys that home, oh, we have a mic, look at this. We're getting all professional now. Thank you very much. So, if the buyer buys this home with no knowledge of that unlicensed work that was not permitted, then an insurance company can force that homeowner to rectify that situation. So the new buyer had no idea. And to give you an example, do you mind if I use an example here?
Floor is yours.
All
You're in the
right.
soup.
So even our mayor is a victim of this. He bought a house, homeowner told him, new roof. Bobby bought the house, moved in, his insurance reviewed, saw that it was unlicensed contracting and unpermitted. They're telling him, we don't care that it looks like it's a new roof, you need to replace your roof, or you're going to lose coverage. We're going to fail to insure you. So it affects all of us at a very deep level, and that's a very large expenditure that I'm sure he didn't plan for, and he absolutely thought that roof was going to be covered for the next 15, 20 years, that wasn't an expenditure he was going to undertake. The next issue we have with unlicensed contractors, they're not properly insured typically, which makes the homeowner potentially liable for any damages or injuries that happen on their property. No repercussions for poor ethics or workmanship. So, unlicensed contractor, there's a Florida Uniform Federal Registration Act. And I am not going to go through all of this for you, but you can read it and you can come back to it. I'm going to just abbreviate it. Roughly this means if you sign an unlicensed contractor does not do a notice to owner or a notice of commencement, which does not protect you as the homeowner. So if you don't have this notice of commencement filed, if you pay your contractor 100% of those funds, he takes his money, he goes. He never pays his material supplier, he never pays his workers, he never pays his subcontractors. You, the homeowner, are now responsible to pay those individuals as well. So even though you've already paid the full contract price, you can potentially be sued for everything that leads into that. Additionally, there is the Florida Homeowners Construction Recovery Fund. So if you utilize a licensed contractor, there is a fund available for anyone that doesn't get service or a monetary compensation for anyone that gets poor quality workmanship or it doesn't meet certain standards and that contractor fails to meet that contract. That's not available for anybody that's a handyman or an unlicensed contractor. It's strictly for licensed contracting. So the poor workmanship, just to give you a couple examples, here's one that I know very clearly. A homeowner paid an unlicensed contractor to fix a leak on a deck over a living space. The unlicensed contractor covered up existing damage without making it apparent to the homeowner. He never really fixed the leak. The area began to leak again. Next thing you know, the licensed contractor finds an issue was exacerbated by the poor workmanship. So as we get into this, that original $4,000 fix turned into a $55,000 repair. And as you start to look at it, and unfortunately there is going to be sound here, that water intrusion entices WDOs, wood-destroying organisms, to take over. Not only is there damage, but now you have more damage because you have potentially termites, carpenter ants, and other organisms in there eating away at that inside of that wall that you can't see. And these are just videos showing some of these WDOs that were inside this wall of this homeowner where he thought he was covered. What work can be performed without a license? A handyman scope of work not requiring a licensed contractor according to the City of Destin. On the City of Destin website, there is a link right here that you can go to, and it tells you exactly what a handyman can and cannot do and what requires a licensed contractor. This is to protect the citizens so that you know that you're covered in your situations. So, in my opinion, we need to be a good neighbor. We have an obligation as a good neighbor to protect our community. Destin is already extremely expensive without these predators out there taking advantage of people. Please report unlicensed contracting. Now, how you do that? Again, myfloridalicense.com. The page pops up. You saw the unlicensed contracting. If you're not comfortable with going online, you can download this QR code, download an app on your phone, and you can report unlicensed contracting there. If you're not comfortable with that, there's other options. You can call DBPR at that phone number, the 866 number. You can email DBPR at ula@myfloridalicense.com. ULA, unlicensed activity. If you're still not happy with that, call me directly and I'll figure out a way to help you. All right? Here is my city email address. Email me a copy of the contract or whoever's taking advantage of you, and I will get with DBPR, and we will find ways to make sure you can recover from whatever they're doing to you. I will get the information, and I'll file that complaint for you. I will do what it takes to make sure you're protected. Thank you for your help. Any questions in helping predators stop in your community, please contact me. One of the reasons I wore this little zoot suit is I was hoping maybe it would draw some kind of attention where somebody says, look at this idiot. He wore a dang tux to a city council meeting. Let's see what he has to talk about. And if this caused one person to pay attention and say, hey, let's make sure we're protecting somebody in our community, one more person watch this, a fixed income individual's not being taken advantage by one of these predators, a single parent trying to raise their kids, aren't taking on these expenditures, and this helps save that one person. All of this is worth it. I'm just asking that we work towards protecting our community. One thing I did do was meet with DBPR. She came down, her name is Denise. She came down, went around the community with me. We looked at certain sites. She even offered to do a sting site that they recently did in Crestview and was very successful. So we provide a house, we tell them what address we want them to use. They provide all funding, all advertising. They get Okaloosa County Sheriff Department involved, and they perform the sting. They advertise it for bidding. People come in and bid. They'll verify. They'll make arrests on site. I think this is very important. It's obviously affected people on this dais. It's affected people in this community several times, and it's something I think we need to be aware of. That's all I have.
Don't drop the mic, taxpayer money. All right, I appreciate the presentation on that. Thank you. Councilman Destin, your presentation with PowerPoint.
Tuxedo. I will ask staff city manager to have staff give us an update on our linear park that we talked extensively about at the last meeting. Where are we and where are we going?
On Thursday, there was one RFQ received by the city interested in doing this project for us. It was, I believe it was DAG. Staff is in the process of crossing the Ts and dotting the Is and making sure it's something that we can bring back to council for approval to move forward with the design work, so.
All right, I will ask you about it at the next meeting also. My only other question is, we voted about 6 months ago to put a walking park in the old campground that's part of the construction project for the Crosstown. What's an update on that one? I heard there were sand spurs out there and that had stopped us just about dead in tracks. What's going on with that?
Yeah, the actual roadway that was there originally when it was a campground is still there and with some gravel remaining in it. It is, as best I can tell, the only pathway that you can walk up and down that property without coming out full of sand spurs. So that's where we've left it at this point.
Okay, so we have a plan to do it, or is it just not going to be done?
I don't have a plan right now to do it. I can tell you that the small piece of property right out here that became our dog park took us probably a year to get rid of all the sand spurs out there with a whole bunch of volunteer weekends. So, I mean, I guess we can try it, but it would be an extensive amount of work.
Well, now you've got a motion from the council telling you to do it. And so if you just ignore that motion, then that's not something I'm willing to go along with. If you can't do it, give us a report at the next meeting or give us a report on when it's going to start.
I will get with the Parks and Rec director. She's on vacation and find out the firm answer for you.
That's all I have.
Councilman Bagby.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of things. EMO 1 classes, Palm Beach Gardens, June 9th through the 11th, and in Tampa, October 6th through the 7th. For those of you who have not been to the Institute of Elected Municipal Officials, there's a couple of level 2 classes if you've been to level 1. I would be careful about using PCB as an example. Number one, they have their own TDC, and Dan Rowe does a great job there, but they get return on their money because they have a lot more money resources than we have in this community. So I would ask, let's go back to our process, which is the staff generates, bubbles up, not through the council, but through the city manager and says, here's my requirements for a job, here's the job description, and this is what I need, and here's what I would recommend that it be funded at. I get a little nervous, I guess, when we go out of sequence and stop following our processes. We have some really good processes, but sometimes we have to follow them. My memory was we asked them to look at it, not to actually do it, but my memory may be wrong because it was at least 6 months ago. So I would look forward to seeing what the recommendation is, or if we can do that. I mean, I thought what you told us after you looked at it was we can open up the gravel walkway and just put signs, don't recommend that people get off of it, but I may be just totally all screwed up.
Yeah, and there are also no trash cans because that was...
And that may well be what was said, but we have not made any progress toward doing that in 6 months.
Okay.
That's the point I make.
That's a good point. And then, I know we're going to have 29 bites of this apple, but I actually like Mr. Sandsted's thing, get rid of the, except for maybe the very last part of the road, the far eastern end
Matty
of the
Kelly
road.
Boulevard.
Yeah,
South
so
and north.
that you can do a north-south thing, but it ought to be a linear park, not a dang road all the way through, because when we were talking about it, we were talking about what exists in my neighborhood, which is a bike path basically from the lake all the way to the far eastern end that's paved, that's about 8 feet wide, I guess, that people bicycle on or rollerblade on or whatever, so. But I'm sure we'll discuss that at some point. Thanks.
Can I jump in for just a second? I think, Mr. Destin, I may have misunderstood your original question. I thought you were talking about in addition to what we've already done out there. There's signage up that says it's open to the public with dogs, and we mowed off the existing gravel road so that it's clear for people to walk all the way from one end to the other and back. So that there is a trail that's available for people right now with signage.
As I went by today, it's still blocked off with wire obstructions. You'd have to climb over, crawl under, jump over, and so I don't know how we can say it's open with those places, those things still in place.
I've had that exact question before, and if you look on the opposite side, that's where we put the opening. Yeah, you're correct. There is a cable across one side of it.
Okay,
But if you
so
look at the
there's
opposite
opening on
side.
the other side?
It's to prevent cars.
Yeah, that's right. So if you look on the north side instead of on the south side where the cable is, there's an opening for pedestrians there. So I misunderstood your question. I apologize.
Glad we got that. All right. All right, Councilwoman Hebert.
Well, thank you for clearing that up, Lance. That's what I thought had happened, and I thought something had retroacted that. That's why I thought this came back up. My area of concern is what one of our citizens spoke about tonight. She's one of about 20 people on my street. I live on Main Street. I am the last house north before you hit Indian Trail. And in the last probably 2 months, 2 of the 4 chickens have gotten killed because people are flying down that road. They don't see them. Not that we want to put a sign up, but we do want to put up a couple of those elevated humps. And I think we were talking, Lance, what has happened over on Stallman right there by, as you're coming up to the backside of where McGuire's is, there's that one. It's definitely slowed people down coming down Cybert. And I feel like it would be money well spent and an easy way to break up that path from about where the city park is there, Main Street. From that point to the end is less than a half a mile. But once they clear the park, about that time coming up, they go from 35 to about 60. And I think it would behoove us because we don't have sidewalks on both sides. So what happens is the kids do end up biking on one side and running or dog walking on the other, and people end up getting on the street to get around each other. So can I make a motion on representing the members of Main Street, my neighbors, that council approve a city hump built into the part of Main Street where the park starts to the T-junction of Indian? Can I get a second on that?
I'm just going to probably beat Bagby to the punch and say put it through the Public Safety and Works Committee.
That was close to what I was going to say. No, we have a process. You do the speed test. The sheriff's deputies put their little thing out there. We verified that, hey, people are zooming up and down. We asked them to go out there and, park near the park or whatever. And
You've already done that.
Have you done the speed test already?
We've done speed enforcement there. We have not done a speed survey.
Okay.
You can use my driveway, Sheriff. You're welcome to park at 716 Main Street, pull back, just back in. It's 3 driveway wide. You park right there. You can catch them very quickly. They won't even know you're there.
Yeah, no, if we just follow the process is good. We do the speed survey, we verify it, we take it to the Public Works, Public Safety Committee, if they approve it, and there's some other things. You gotta have like a certain number of neighbors up and down both sides of the street, because, everybody thinks everybody wants one, but sometimes everybody doesn't want one, and then we approve it. I'm not, that's how, because we were getting to where we were doing nothing but speed humps all over this town, and I'm not sure That's what we want, because as a guy who has like 20 in my neighborhood, I hate the dang things, but that's just me.
Well, since you've said that, I still would like to just see if I can get this done, because I don't think we need a speed test. I think it's pretty adamant, and there isn't 20 in my neighborhood. There isn't even one. So I'd really like to have one installed between the Main Street Park and Indian Bayou.
I'll second that.
All right, motion and second.
I have a clarification question for myself, because I think right now on the books, and I may be mistaken, but I think there are two methods for getting these installed. One of them is to go through the Public Works, Public Safety Committee and have the testing done. The other one, I think council had reserved the right to approve speed humps on their own too. So, and I may be wrong, but that's how I remember it.
Yeah, Dewey's up first. All right, Councilman Destin.
And that's what I was going to point out. Council always has the right to put a speed bump if we think one is necessary. And the process that we have where the neighbors come and petition, that's for organized neighborhoods where there is in fact a neighborhood. On Main Street, I don't think that's an organized neighborhood, and the speeding along there is pretty horrible. And I have observed it, and I think it would be a good place to put a speed bump. And we love our committees, but we don't have to pass everything through them. We want their advice and welcome it, but this one's pretty clear cut. They are speeding through there in a pretty horrible manner, so I would support the motion.
All right, Councilman King.
I live down there as well. Right when you go past the lake and just Bayou, the first right, I live right there. I'm hesitant to support this just because I've had multiple people come to me asking for speed bumps or speed humps in their neighborhood, and I'm like, whoa, 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 we have a process.
For neighborhoods, yes.
Hold up, come on.
Yeah, so I would absolutely support it if we went through the process, but without going through the process, I'm not going to support it, and it has nothing to do with, look, when I come down the hill, going past the lake and just Bayou, this morning it happened. There was a Porsche behind me, shoots up behind me, and I'm like, just slow motion, just trying to slow them down, and they hated me. As soon as I turn, it's like a rocket, you know? So I absolutely would support this, but I think that we should go through the process like any other neighborhood.
Could you please repeat those sounds?
Okay. Yeah, all right, I see no further discussion. I'll call for the vote. We're voting.
Main Street speed hump.
Oh, motion passes.
Thank you, Main Street members. I have taken care of y'all. You don't have to back in your driveway anymore.
All right.
Wait.
Yep, go ahead.
There's one issue that I wanted to bring up, and Lance, I had forwarded this to the city, so I'm pretty sure this is already at your level, regarding the House Bill 7053, the Tourism Development talking points. Do you want me to bring that up here? It's where they're requiring in some of the rural cities the 2% tourist development collection. It hasn't come to Okaloosa County yet, but it could very well. And in a nutshell, Mr. Maney did vote on it, but said he wanted more clarification. So we do need to be aware that this could be something that they push through. Okay? Do you want to speak any more on it? You want to say anything about it, Lance or Kyle, either one of you that may know more about it?
Yeah, Shane.
Shane.
Hey, get up here.
Come on up here, Shane, and give us some information, because I know you were just at the Capitol last week, right?
I noticed you're getting a little red again.
Yeah, Shane Moody, President and CEO of the Destin Chamber. There is not a Senate companion bill to go with that, and we do not think that there will be one. The Florida Chamber is opposed to it. There's 7 or 8 statewide organizations opposed to it. This happens every other year when a new speaker takes over in the first year of their 2-year term. They go after Visit Florida, they go after Enterprise Florida, they go after everything that they consider corporate welfare and incentives that which I don't understand, which is why we get our tails kicked in economic development in this state, is because we don't have any statewide incentives and why we can't attract the kind of high-skill, high-wage jobs that we've been fighting for years and years and years. So there is no companion bill. They do not think that there will be a Senate companion bill, so we do not think that it's an issue at this time. In last week's weekly wave that went out last Tuesday, there was a letter that I had written to I actually copied and pasted it from somebody else, that we sent to the governor's office and to Jay Trumbull, our senator, because the strategy is it's going to pass the House because it's a speaker priority, and it will pass the House, but we're going to try to defeat it, and probably will defeat it at the Senate and the governor's office.
Thank you for clarification. Appreciate that. That's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman King.
I don't have anything city-related, but just to announce we have a new resident in the state. My wife.
He's not been sleeping.
Gave birth to our sweet little baby Walker. How many? What's that? How many children? That's the first one for us. So I thought about taking a paternity day, but they said I needed to be here. So.
Thank you.
There we go.
Congratulations, Dad. Your wife is going to have her first Mother's Day in May, so don't forget her.
Councilman Schmidt.
Thank you. I have a few things. I first just wanted to follow up with Mr. Bagby and maybe some others about the discussion with the cell phone tower, or sorry, the tower. I mean, maybe it's just me, but I know you said you would support based upon Eglin, not about some of the things I mentioned, but some of the things I mentioned also concerned you. You know, does nobody else get weary feeling about the answers and comments that are being presented? It's supposed to be a transparent situation and a partnership sometimes, and you don't have to answer if you want, but I just hope that we, just because the room wasn't filled with the people that maybe we talked to today, doesn't always mean, there's more to it than that. It's just, there's answers that they gave that doesn't sit well with me. And, but, you want to say something on that?
Yeah, I want to tell you, I absolutely believe you're 100% right, and I absolutely believe that you did an amazing job with your research. When it came down to my vote, I want to clarify, I realize I don't trust many people because I own my own business and I deal with people that talk half out of their mouth and half with a knife in my back every time I deal with them. So I expect there to be some deception because somebody's trying to accomplish a certain thing. But I typically look at it as, how I looked at it in this situation was more utilitarian. Does the benefit outcome or outweigh any of the concerns that we potentially had about that?
Gotcha.
So, I mean, you had me right there where I wanted to say no, but then I just kept thinking, if one individual dies because hurricane whatever hits and we delayed this,
Sure.
then can I go to bed at night looking at myself in the mirror and not feel that pain?
Appreciate it.
So I absolutely think you did an amazing job. And I thought I made that clear when I commended you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
But I just didn't know that I could deal with the alternative.
All right, appreciate it, thanks.
Yeah.
And I want to say something too.
Well, hold on, look at Councilman. Yeah.
That's how this
There's that
process
process
works. Okay? This process, we have a process, we just don't want to use it. No, Kevin, and I'm a little bit where Tori is. I think you did a great job. Look, we have a partnership with the county. We have a partnership with TDD. There have been things that the county has done, the TDC, second district, or whatever, the way they expand. I mean, I could give you a arm's long list that I didn't think the county commissioners were well served by their staff sometimes. But the partnership between the city and the county and the safety of our citizens is paramount. We're going to have a vote. We had a vote last meeting. We had a vote this meeting. We're going to have a vote next meeting, probably. where there'll be a lot of things, but my long pole in tent is that Eglin approval.
Sounds good.
And would I wish Tracy had been here tonight so I could grill him on, why he didn't want it at the airport? Yes, but in the bigger picture, our partnership with the county, whether they help us out with the pickleball courts or whether they help, we're a team, and sometimes your teammates don't pull their full weight, but they're still your teammate, and you still love them.
Sounds good.
And I think we made the point. There were 2 county commissioners in this room tonight. I think they heard
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
our displeasure that you voiced, and I think a couple of us supported, or most of us supported. And but we've got to move forward, and I understand that. And I don't want to wait another year just because the perfect solution would be the airport. So you don't make the perfect the enemy of the good
Sounds
enough.
good. I appreciate it, Jim. Thank you.
And
You got a parade now.
Sorry.
Well,
I apologize.
I
asked
agree.
for it, right?
Well, and I agreed with everything you were saying as well, especially when you brought up, what about the 109 Industrial Park? That was what my question was, is why were we, I love that Destin Waters got the place at Kentucky away and had it away, but we as the city, there's no benefit. We're not going to make any money off of this. So that's why I was like, could we do 2 towers? Maybe put the 2 towers in city property so that we benefit in the long run.
I heard him.
And you heard
Sounds
what
good.
his answers were. So
Perfect.
I appreciate you bringing it all up,
Yeah.
and I, like the fellow,
Thanks for y'all's answers.
we all don't want to put it off because
Sure.
we don't want to be the ones that say, okay, we delayed
Sure.
this.
Sounds good. Yeah, Lance, what's the status of the new IT director?
I'm going to let Mr. Warren answer that because he conducted an interview, and I'm going to join him in one the day after tomorrow.
I think it's tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. We continue to pursue it hard. We have gone through a lot. It is difficult to bring people to Destin to live.
So what can we do as a council to support this endeavor to have an IT director?
We have looked hard at the salary scale, and we believe we have it where it should be within the organization. And we continue to pursue this, and hopefully.
So there's nothing we can do right now to help you guys find an IT guy?
I got an idea. If we're just shooting from the hip here, I think it's very important that most of our directors are here because they got to be hands-on, touching stormwater, touching the parks, touching the PR information of it all. But in today's era, IT is anywhere, and especially with COVID, I know several family and friends who used to live in California because they had to show up to work, and now they came back home and are still doing the same job, getting promoted. So if there was an idea to throw out there, this would be the one asterisk of a director's position that isn't required to live in. I think the city manager is the only one that is required to live in the city of Destin, but I think we don't need to require this director position to be here.
I hear you, but y'all are saying you don't need anything from us. Money, we're good right now.
I think we have changed our strategy in the last 2 months.
Okay.
And we have received a number of new applicants.
Good.
I know Jamie just left, but,
Perfect.
which is exciting.
Good.
So we hope that will.
Sounds good.
Bring to
Glad to
fruition.
hear that. What's the status of the RFQ for the city center design?
Ray, do you remember the exact number that we opened up last Thursday? It was over 10, right?
About 11. Oh, wait, the town center, you mean? We got the town center.
City center design? RFQ?
Okay, we have 11 bid submission.
So it's out and there's bids coming in on it?
Yes, sir. We had a bid opening last Thursday and received 11 submissions.
Okay, good. Thank you. Appreciate it. Did we ever come to just a conclusion, this may be Kyle, for the project manager matrix? Do we end up hiring somebody? They're on our continuing contractors? Contractors?
Yeah, we entered into that contract.
So they're to be our project manager whenever staff wants to use them?
Yeah, that's right. Project manager plus, I would call that
Project
contract.
plus. Right, okay. Have we had any projects that we're going to start using them for yet that we have on our list, or?
We have not engaged them yet, but Jeff has asked them if they would consider our next park project. And Jeff, I don't know what the results of that were because it just took place.
The Clement Taylor Park? Yeah, we would certainly engage them in that.
How'd they respond to that?
Positively.
Good.
They would be interested in helping us with that. Of course, we bring a task order to council for your consideration.
Okay. Sounds good. I'm glad we're
Yeah.
going to use them, hopefully. We had a direct motion to create a committee, an advisory committee, made up of Destin water users, some staff, Gulf Power, last year, to design the linear park project. Did we ever form that committee?
We had one meeting that I was a part of, and 'cause I was the person to be there.
Okay. So
I haven't heard anything else.
who's in charge of that committee? Do you know? Parks, maybe, or?
Jeff, were you the liaison for that? Or was it Lisa?
I think Lisa worked on it, and I do know that there's going to be efforts to meet with Parks and Rec.
Not
City
Parks and
Council.
Rec, the committee that the city council directed
The
y'all to.
stakeholders meeting, right?
I don't know, there was a motion to form a committee, including Destin water users, Gulf Power, staff, city council. and-
Yeah, if I remember correctly, the stakeholders meeting was so that we included the necessary information in the RFQ that we released. Of course,
Okay.
that RFQ's been
I would,
released
I
already.
would, if y'all don't mind, next meeting, just revisit that to make sure that we're doing the committee that we were supposed to be forming to design that, rather than just making sure that we're doing it correctly, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Back around the same time frame, we asked we made a direct motion to review and bring back changes to the food truck ordinance and regulations. Any update on that? Lance?
I know that Lewis has that in his list for the LDC rewrite, but if you all wanted it faster than that, we could.
Any idea when we're doing the LDC rewrite? I know we're ongoing, right? I should restate that question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So Article 1 and 2 are released for public review right now.
Right.
And we're going to start those workshops. As far as the food truck stuff, like the language for that specifically.
The map and all.
I'd imagine that would probably be either Article 4, which is the land use, the zoning
So just
districts.
Ballpark timing, when could that come, possibly?
The last we spoke about to 3TP about getting the draft for Article 4 was several weeks, and that was a couple weeks ago. So hopefully within the next month, we should be getting a draft on that.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, Article 3 is under final review right now for drafting, so the next one would be Article 4.
Okay. We also had an idea at the outgoing mayor's meeting to bring back ideas for outsourced rec programs, changing our rec programs, youth programs, pursuing things. Is that still in the works on y'all's peer review to work on?
I'll make sure that Lisa's still following up on it.
Okay. I'd like, just let us know if you could, next meeting. And electric bikes, we asked them to take it to the Public Works and Public Safety meeting and come back to us. Have y'all had that one yet, to determine possible options for electric bike safety on the sidewalk for our citizens?
It might have been in our agenda this.
Michael, are you online?
It's all good. Maybe next meeting y'all could let us know that one if you don't mind. Only other thing I'll ask is we have some ordinances. Oh, sorry, I have something on my agenda item as well. Mr. Perry, been here. Sorry, I know he's been waiting for me to talk about this one, so thank you, sir. I almost forgot. The wind signs and banners. We have an LDC item. And I thought I asked to have it in the council agenda packet. I apologize if it's not. But we have an item on our LDC that talks about wind flags and banners. And I think y'all had a discussion at the last meeting just very briefly. And I wasn't here, and I apologize. But there was conversation at that meeting, and was the outcome that we're going to use that at the rewrite meeting as well? We're going to focus on that item at the rewrite. Was that what y'all said, or was that your response? Clarify that ordinance?
Marry it up with the county, isn't that what we talked about?
Yeah, I know that Lewis and I have had that conversation to try to,
Get
I mean, one of the
county.
options is that we align with the county.
Right. Well, I know there's been a lot of discussions about those flags, banners, snipe signs, and things like that in the right-of-way, signage in general in the city right-of-way. I know we have talked to Mr. Bagby back and forth a lot about priorities of code. I don't know, when we have code officers going down the boardwalk telling business owners to take a flag off the dock at the end of the pier, is that really a big deal in that particular time and situation? Maybe not, but it's on the LDC and it tells them to do it. We have, places in the Destin area that use flags that don't get ticketed or warning, maybe because there was no call put in, and there wasn't a priority to go do that. And I respect it, I understand it and everything, but there's, the wind sign banner, there's the food truck item that people have been following up with me about. They're trying to start some food trucks. We have the electric bike discussion. There's a lot of items that I feel would be maybe beneficial to hold a workshop to focus on rather than let's wait until the rewrite process is done, because I don't feel that if we look at the whole rewrite as a whole, I think we've talked about this in previous meetings in regards to the rewrite, that we might miss out on some of these small items, right? These small items that are important to council members and citizens, that we're focusing on hundreds of pages of documents rather than discussing a map about a food truck that might take some time to have a discussion about. And so I was going to make a motion to direct city staff to put together a public workshop in the next 60 days to focus on council's top 3 to 5 LDC rewrite items that we can spend an hour, 2 hours, or whatever specifically on those things, and have ordinances brought to us sooner than the rewrite that will have a good impact on our citizens sooner than later, rather than kicking it down the road.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Seeing no further, jump on in. Sure.
Well, no, because I'm just trying to understand because in a workshop, we can't make any decisions. So I'm trying to figure out if your intent, where I thought you were going right till you made your motion, was we're going to have a meeting, we're going to give them specific guidance on some specific issues for the LDC rewrite so that they get it right the first time, as opposed to they bring us the LDC and we go, no, I don't want any flags anywhere, or I don't want any signs anywhere, and then 6-1, we vote to have signs everywhere, or what? So, but a workshop, we're just going to sit around and it's kind of like
No, that's a good point, Jim.
a 3 a.m. college thing.
No, I understand your comments and your concerns. The reasoning behind that, there's always a lot of public outcry sometimes about certain things. And I've had people tell me, I work on Monday nights, I can't come, So could I put on the agenda at the next meeting 3 items with my edits to a rewrite, and we can have that discussion here at the next meeting, and make that motion to have all that? I mean, I can do that, because that's our right to do that. And at 9 o'clock at night, we could start that discussion, and the public could come in.
You can have a special meeting if you want instead of a workshop.
Well, special meeting, workshop, but then the public would want to talk about these things too, and, it's the end of the night. And so I think that there are, whether it's the Facebook crowd or whoever, there's a lot of vocal people with a few items that are of very importance to them that, maybe nobody would come on a Tuesday or Wednesday, but a different night than a Monday, giving the opportunity to have 2 to 3 to 4 items that council members feel are strongly that we would provide to Ray or whoever that we think are important, and we focus on that, and then that would give the staff the idea that next meeting, hopefully we're about to make some changes and then we would make the vote at the next meeting. That's my idea behind it.
Councilman Destin?
And I don't have a problem with that, but we need to narrow it down to more 2 to 3 to 4, or, I mean, what are we gonna talk about? The banners, that's ripe for a discussion because a lot of people are wound up about that after being threatened with $100 fine or whatever. And, you know, if you wanna talk about food trucks, I'm not sure that is quite as hot an item. But if you wanna come up with a couple of, issues, we can certainly talk about them. You can put them on for discussion, just like we're doing now, only hopefully earlier in the night.
Sure. Do I have to provide the items tonight, or can I say that we will, in my motion,
No, I
that
think
we will
it's
provide them?
Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Thursday deadline or whatever it is to put it on the agenda.
Yeah, just email Ray.
Oh, that you do want to have it at a council meeting?
I would rather have it at a council meeting so we can make a decision.
One suggestion, if you don't want to wait till the end of the night, would be you could ask the city manager to put it under his reports, and we could talk about it earlier.
Yeah, I like that.
Great idea.
Yeah, if y'all would prefer to do that rather than having another meeting?
Yeah, but put them under
Well,
his, because they're his report.
I hear you, but just,
Yep.
most of you guys want to do that. Tori, I see you shaking your head, but y'all can talk if you want.
Tori,
I like the idea of a workshop. Personally, I realize what you're saying, that you can't make a decision, but you can still offer guidance. We can still give, but I think it's a little bit more open, a little bit more free, maybe a little bit less formal. We got more input from other people other than just 3 minutes at 2 public sessions. So I see the point of the workshop, and I would support that personally from the workshop aspect.
all right. Councilman Bagby, wrap it up.
Yeah, just trying to understand so we have these 3 things, we discuss them. Are we then going to say, bring it back for first, inclusion in the current LDC now? Or are we going to say, when you come back in 3 months, make sure that's in the I'm just trying to figure out the process.
Yeah,
that
I'd
we're
come back to
doing
the
here.
next meeting with this item under my name, and I would come back and make a motion based on
Well,
all
it'd
that
be a-
discussion that we had, and hopefully y'all would support, or hopefully we make some changes, but having public here or whatever, it's just an option to have a public workshop on items that we say we're gonna do at the rewrite. And we're gonna do it at the rewrite, just trying to give opportunity, like Tori said, to have discussion, talk.
Yeah,
And make the
I don't,
action at the
I don't
next
have a
meeting.
problem with the discussion, the talk. I would prefer to do it at a council meeting, but whatever y'all
Yeah.
want to do. But I'm just trying to, we're doing exactly what we said we didn't want to do, which was to keep doing the nickel and diamond on the dadgum LDC, so that,
Who said that?
well, I think
don't
I've
remember.
said it. I think it's been said by others up here that, that's why we're going through the LDC rewrite process.
That's fine.
And I don't care if y'all want to go back to the nickel and, and changing it every other week. It's just hard. The guys who are rewriting.
Mr. Bagby,
the
I hear
LDC.
you, but there's some items that I asked for over 6 months ago to be brought back to us, and we still don't have them. So I'm just trying to have an opportunity, and if y'all want to vote for it, it's fine. But if we could, I'd call it to vote, please. Calling the vote.
What is the motion?
To city staff manager to put on within 60 days a public workshop to these items. Say that again?
Which items?
To have a public workshop for LDC items that we're going to have discussions on? Do I need to specify the items on the motion?
The LDC code is 100, 200 pages.
That's why I was asking earlier,
Yep.
do we need to give tonight, or can the council in the next, I'm assuming he's going to bring us back a date at the next meeting, this is my assumption. And at that night, we could give him that list at the next meeting. So my motion would be that city manager brings us back a date for a public workshop in the next 60 days. And at the next meeting, we will provide him with 1 to 2 items from each of us. You're not required to, but you can.
Well, let's see, that could be 1 or 2, that'd be 14 or 15 items. Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm sorry if you're trying to nail me down to a certain thing. If y'all don't want to support this, it's fine.
Well-
Maybe I'm being confusing, but I'm just trying to have some public dialogue with public at a workshop besides on Monday night at 9:15 at night, or at 6 o'clock even on a Monday night. So it's just trying to pursue another option.
And I have no problem with that, but I would like to at least have some parameters about what we're going to talk about.
The
and what
3
the
that you
items are.
mentioned.
Sure. Let's talk about
Food
wavy
truck,
flags. Let's talk
flags.
about food truck rewrite. And let's talk about Electric bicycles on the sidewalk.
Those three.
That's three. I'm good with that.
I'm good with that. Let's do that.
I can't-
And how about?
Sorry for the confusion.
The signage.
Second.
We're voting. Ayes have it, so moved.
That's all I have. Thank you. I think they're also optional, right? So, I mean, if you don't want to come, Mr. Bagby, it's okay.
I don't know, I want to make decisions.
Can't hear you. There's no microphone on.
I want to come. I think I've made more workshops than pretty much anybody, but and council meetings, but I want to decide. If we're going to talk about this, let's do it in a forum we can decide. A workshop where everybody just kind of philosophizes about what they think about electric bikes on sidewalks and bike paths and all this other stuff. Okay.
All right. You done? All right, appreciate it. All right, so we talked IT, so that's good. I talked to Michael Burgess about the fleet management. We had an RFQ, we had one RFQ in, and then he approached me saying that we could potentially do it in-house. So I would just like to see whenever in the next month or so of having what that fleet management's going to look like if we're not going to pursue the RFQ that we put out. And he was very adamant that we wanted to do it in-house, that we, do it in-house then, because there's about a couple over $100,000 estimated from the third party that we could be saving if we rotate the vehicles out every 3-4 years versus trying to maintain them with, employees we don't have for maintenance. And then with that, talking about our county and the partnership that we have, the annexation policy, it was up, it was down, we got scared because the county wasn't involved, and so I really want to make a hard push for our annexation policy and to make sure that that's on the next agenda item to be voted on to council. Yes, Steve?
So there, as part of Article 2, there is an annexation procedure that has been included in Article 2. So it's not necessarily a policy that sets what we're going to do, but as far as how we're going to annex when annexations come about is in Article 2, the draft right now.
Okay.
So if you'd like to review that, but as far as a policy, as what properties are going to go forth and what city council would like to target.
I'm talking about the phase one for the enclaving.
Yeah, that's not part of it. This is just strictly procedure.
Okay, so I want to see what we had on the agenda, back at the agenda, so we can vote on that, so we can start this annexation policy, so we can continue our partnership with the county to improve Commons Drive, Enclave, Commons Drive west of Home Depot, show that it's a great community win, and keep moving east is my hope for the next 4 years. And then with that, I just had several people reach out to me about Four Prong Lake and the flooding and the stormwater issues that they have over there. And I know with DEP and their new priorities with stormwater and some of the CARE Act, I'm really hoping that we can potentially help them out there. That's going to be they have a short-term fix and a long-term fix. And I've had several meetings with some of their HOA board meetings, and that's just something that they're really struggling with is the Four Prong Lake stormwater. So I just wanted to bring that out there, and I'm going to be talking to Michael Burgess about that as well and see if we can do anything with the grant money to help them out. Councilman Destin.
Never mind, it's 9:30.
Oh, come on. Go grab some coffee. Let's keep going.
He did turn on.
What? Well, when else we got? We're going to talk tomorrow about this? Oh, wait, we can't. We got a workshop coming up. Okay, and then the other thing is just the IT thing as far as, if nothing of these guys pan out, I really think we could have a remote IT director with both a acting manager and a city, I'm sorry, Webb, I forgot your title there, deputy of everything. I really think the IT director doesn't need to be here, especially if we can get a very high qualified IT director remotely. And that is all I have. And yeah, just the annexation. I really would love this enclaving done this year. I think it is a win-win. There's a lot of good citizens out there that I've spoken to that are on the HOA board meetings that want to come in. They're seeing the benefit, And with that, I think we need to pursue this, move forward, and slowly bring all of Destin inside the city limits, because I think we could do a lot more if we're all on the same team going together. Councilman Destin. Yeah, there you go.
There you
Got
go.
that
On the
shot of
IT
espresso in them.
On the IT director, I just don't see a remote IT director doing the job we need. The IT director needs to be here to work with the employees who need that instruction and that expertise. If that IT director is not located at the city, and what are you going to do? Try to
FaceTime
email them
them.
or call them or?
You write code, you FaceTime them, and you get internet and everything to talk to each other.
No, I don't think that'll serve us well, but that's just an old-fashioned opinion.
I'm here to balance it out.
I'll give you a less old-fashioned opinion, but a similar one. I would prefer, instead of doing that, outsource, contracting it. Okay, contracting a team, I mean, every business that I've run, not the current one because it's not really a business, but we always outsourced our IT to come in and do that. And then maybe they put somebody in-house full-time, but they have the ability to reach back and get all those experts to do all the other stuff.
Yeah, I really like that too.
And that's correct. After 8 years with the school board where we had 3,000 employees, we contracted IT out, and it worked quite well. There was always someone there, though, that would address the problems.
Yeah, I like a point person. I like that. All right. With that, land use attorney.
Don't have anything, thank you.
Why not? All right. Nothing for me. You're both boring. All right. Public comments. Yes, sir. Captain. He's trolling now. And now he's just trolling, Captain.
If I stay here this long, I got a right to talk. Gary Jarvis, 804 Mars Street. First of all, you know why the chicken crossed the road and got hit? Because you couldn't see the chicken. I got a Rottweiler, and when we go up to hunt camp, we put an orange collar on and an orange vest so nobody shoots the dog. So those chickens that are no longer with us, that's the owner's fault for not making their
And they
chickens.
are black, by the way.
They are black chickens, and I've almost I did not kill either one of the two that are missing now.
And I meant.
But I just had to add something to the chicken joke. Number two, in deference, ma'am, if you want to put a speed bump, put it north of Planet Drive so I don't have to drive over it. Okay? You got that, staff? Well, I could do that, but the speed actually takes place when they come off Indian Trail and they're heading the other way, not when they come around the S-curves like Johnny was talking about. All right, a little serious. The discussion on the tower, I think, was a little bit of a case of not seeing the forest for the trees, because the people that were here that are impacted the most by that tower was our fire department representatives, our sheriff's department, our director of safety for the whole county, our 911 communications. Us old guys, if we ever have to dial 911 because of medical emergency, we don't want to glitch in it. In that area where we live, there actually is really poor coverage when it comes to cell phone coverage. So yes, there's some individual questions here and there and stuff like that, but one of your duty, your fiduciary duty, is the health, wealth, safety, and welfare of the community. And that's what this whole tower issue is. It's a health, welfare, and safety issue. And I think that was wise to dot the I, cross the T, and cover your butt by getting the letter from Eglin, but I'm pretty sure that in the process of all the towers that they've already set up with the county's done up to this point, they pretty much have the message from Eglin that everything's okay. And Emerald Grand's taller than that tower as far as sea level anyways. So there's just sometimes you have to apply a little bit of common sense, but more importantly, take the 30,000-foot view on an issue like this. It's a partnership. It's not going to cost the city anything, but it's going to provide something that this city needs every single day, every single minute, and that's safety and communication. Lastly, after the comments, the update from the city manager about the response, the motion you made to see if the future owners of that piece of property for the idea of a city center, where they're even willing to sell. Well, apparently they're not. They do have to come before this city if they're going to further develop that property. I think highest and best use, we all know what that is. It's going to be multifamily apartments. And so I think the city's in a position, they have a lot of different tools, and I would like to see them, and I'm going to talk to you all individually, I'd like to see the city have a discussion with them saying, look, this is a very important priority in our community. This is a vision, this is an idea. We're willing to buy that piece of property with you, and or you can work in partnership with us to help to develop this vision. You know, we're fixing to reply the RFQ with the $50,000 to get an idea, three-dimensional idea what a city center could be. But up to this point, we've been very easy and welcoming with the future owners of that piece of property, but sometimes if it's in the best interest of the city and it's something that the vision of the city leaders want, and we don't want something else, the good news is, I talked to Kim, that area is zoned conditional use, so you do have some leverage in that discussion, and I'd encourage this council to work through that process, working with the community development and the city attorney, and get in front of the future owners, because the contract hasn't been signed, and say, look, this is what we want, and do you want to be a participant in this? Do you not want to be a participant? And then see where that discussion goes. Sorry. Thanks for giving me the extra time.
I can't help but point out that that would perhaps be extortion, which is never a good thing to do in the business.
We have criteria in the code for approving or denying that use.
I believe in our
That
attorneys.
we would follow.
We have attorneys and people.
Anyone else?
Nope.
Seeing none, we're closing public comments, and with that, meeting adjourned.